Chapter 15:12. Zhou Tong and the other four hurriedly rushed over. Facing Yuan Shu, who had the strength of a third-level Spirit Emperor, they all used their full strength. Unfortunately, they were not Spirit Emperors. Even if they were half-step Spirit Emperors, there was still a big gap between them and a true Spirit Emperor. Zhou Tong's group in silver armor rushed forward again. But this time, before they could get close to the altar, the six of them were bounced back by a huge wave of spiritual energy. That wave of spiritual energy came from the black altar beneath Yuan Shu's feet. The altar has begun to activate. None of you can stop me. Yuan Shu's hair was disheveled as he laughed towards the sky. Yihao! Yuan Shu! What is this? Three different voices sounded from the top of the mountain. They were Ling Junyan, Yuing Wan, and Qin Yunji. Ling Junyan brought gold armor to silver armor's group. Yuing Wan, Han Shi, and the other two stood together. Qin Yunji stood in front of Huangfu Yunji and the others. When they were climbing the mountain, they suddenly felt something strange at the top of the mountain. So, they hurried over and saw this scene. Yuing Wan's gaze swept over Yuan Shu's back. Suddenly, he seemed to have seen something. His face was very gloomy as he said angrily, Yuan Shu, what did you do to my Qin family? Why did they become like this? Neither human nor ghost. Father, they must have been bewitched by Yuan Shu. Yu Sanjiang took out the jade Buddha stone and threw it on the ground. Han Shi cursed, Yuan Shu, you damn thing. We trusted you in vain. You didn't even let our people go. Qin Yunji said indifferently, Yuan Shu, although I don't know what you're doing, since you become public enemy number one, I naturally can't let go of this opportunity to beat a drowning dog. Ling Junyan's face was cold as she said, let Yihao go. Yuan Shu impatiently picked his ear and said with a smile, so noisy. Since you have such opinions about me, why don't you all come at me together? Arrogant. Simply arrogant to the extreme. Although Yuan Shu was a third-order spirit monarch, Jin Jia and Qin Yunji were second-order spirit monarchs, and Silver Armor was first-order spirit monarch. There were also many 8th and 9th-order spirit emperors. Yuan Shu kicked Yihao away. Yihao clutched his stomach and lay on the altar in pain. Yuan Shu looked at the people who didn't move and mocked them. What? You don't dare move? Since you're not moving, let's begin. As soon as he said that, the black-clothed death warrior standing behind Yuan Shu suddenly moved. Everyone was on high alert. Just as they were about to attack, they suddenly froze in place. Although the men of sacrifice behind Yuan Shu had moved, they weren't coming for them. Instead, they were rushing towards the black altar. Everyone thought that Yuan Shu was going to use some kind of trick, but to their surprise, Yuan Shu placed his hands on the heads of the two death warriors. Not long after, the bodies of the two death warriors quickly withered and turned into two skeletons that casually fell to the ground. Yuan Shu's aura imperceptibly increased. Cough, cough. Yihao clutched his stomach and said, quick, stop him. He's accumulating energy to activate the spiritual array. He's going to steal the spiritual energy from the thing sealed in the depths of the mountain range. At that time, his realm will only get higher and higher, and all of us will die. Qin Yunji rushed out from the crowd and raised his right fist. He rushed towards the altar and muttered, although I don't know what you're talking about, you're right. We can't let Yuan Shu's cultivation increase. Otherwise, we will all die. Wang. The expected scene of Qin Yunji being repelled by the altar's spiritual energy did not happen. Qin Yunji directly passed through the altar's protective barrier and arrived on top of it. Qin Yunji faced Yuan Shu, who was smiling sinisterly, and punched. Yuan Shu did not resist and allowed Qin Yunji's fist to hit his stomach. Suddenly, Qin Yunji's expression changed and cold sweat poured down his forehead. He realized that the cultivation he had worked so hard to cultivate was falling rapidly. He had just been a second-order spirit emperor, but in the blink of an eye, he had fallen to a first-order spirit emperor. He looked at the white bones on the ground and had no doubt that if this continued, he would end up like those white bones. Yihao frowned and struggled to get up. He kicked Qin Yunji, and Qin Yunji was kicked off the altar by Yihao. His rapidly falling cultivation stopped at the First Order Spirit Emperor. Qin Yunji, who was lying on the ground, panted heavily. Yuan Shu was very unhappy and used a whip kick to throw Yi Hao away. He said angrily, "It wasn't easy for a Spirit Emperor to come, and you actually ruined it." Scram! Zhou Tong and the others quickly caught Yi Hao. "What should we do now? Going in is no different from suicide. Let's attack from a distance. Even if we can't kill him, we have to disrupt him. We can't let him succeed so easily." After saying that, everyone's attacks surged toward Yuan Shu from all directions. Unfortunately, before they could get close to Yuan Shu, they were all blocked by the altar's protective barrier. At this time, there were more than 50 white bones under Yuan Shu's feet. Yuan Shu's cultivation was also rising rapidly. Everyone couldn't help but fall into despair. Some even had thoughts of running away. "Run? Where can we run to?" Yi Hao said seriously. "Let's not talk about whether we can get out. Even if we can, with Yuan Shu's cultivation, no one in the entire ancient demon realm will be his opponent. Where can we run to?" Everyone's face darkened and fell into silence. Ling Junyan asked, "Yi Hao, do you have any ideas?" Yi Hao pondered for a moment, then said, "This spiritual array replacement can only succeed if both parties are on the altar. If one party leaves the altar, then it will be ineffective." Qin Yunji held his shriveled hand and walked over. He said, "You mean to chase Yuan Shu off the altar?" "No." Yi Hao's eyes were red. He said, "Yuan Shu caused such a big commotion. Logically speaking, the thing in the depths of the mountain should have made a move. But until now, there has been no movement. There can only be one explanation. It's sealed and can't leave the altar. Since that's the case, we'll help it break the seal and leave the altar." Everyone was stunned. Not to mention how to break the seal, they didn't even know where the thing was in the depths of the mountain. It was a fool's dream to do it. Yi Hao looked at Yuan Shu calmly. "Right now, we can't do anything to Yuan Shu. We can only give it a try. Spirit Monarch Realm cultivators can use their divine souls to travel. After our divine souls travel, don't attack Yuan Shu anymore. Instead, attack the black-clothed death warriors behind him. Don't let Yuan Shu have any energy to draw." Okay, Yuan Shu made the great clans feel a great threat. So this time, the great clan stood on the same front under Yi Hao's leadership. Chapter 15:13. Ling Junyan looked at Yi Hao in confusion and asked, "It said that the soul can travel when one is in the Spirit Monarch realm. You're only in the Spirit Emperor realm. How can your soul travel?" Yi Hao took out an elixir and said with a smile, "Don't worry, I can use the power of this elixir to temporarily stay in the Spirit Monarch realm for a while. During this time, you can help me buy some time and leave the rest to me. How can we trust you?" Although Huangfu Yunji was on the same side as Yi Hao, he was still worried. Han Shi also said, "That's right. Even if you successfully find the location, the thing in the depths of the mountain can't break the seal itself. Can you break it?" "That's right. I can't be at ease with so many of our lives in your hands." After hearing what Huangfu Yunji and Han Shi said, most of the other people looked at Yi Hao with a trace of suspicion. Yi Hao smiled faintly and said, "This is the only way. You have to believe it even if you don't." With that, he sat to the side and took a pill to break through. Huangfu Yunji was very unhappy with Yi Hao's attitude and was about to explode when he was glared at by Qin Yunji. Qin Yunji looked at his shriveled hand and said, "My Qing family will do as you say." Huangfu Yunji wanted to say more, but after seeing Qin Yunji's serious expression, he swallowed the words he wanted to say. "My Ling family will do as you say." Ling Junyan took out a bracelet and crushed it. Dozens of golden figures appeared behind her. These people were originally used to deal with Yuan Shu, and now it was time for them to come in handy. "We will also do as you say." Zhou Tong and the other 5 raised their weapons and expressed their stance. Zhou Tong's gaze constantly scanned behind Yuan Shu as if he was looking for something. "My Yu family will do as you say." Yu Yingluan and Yu Sanjiang both took out their weapons. Originally, according to Ling Junyan's plan, he was prepared to change sides, but he didn't expect Yuan Shu's actions to completely mess up their plans. He was originally Princess Ling's man, so it was natural for him to express his stance. My Han family will do as you say. Han Shi activated his spiritual power. My Hao family will do as you say. Hao Gui, who just woke up, also released his aura. Since that's the case, my Huangfu family will also do as you say. Huangfu Yunji no longer insisted and prepared to go all out. In the magical beast world, Saint Emperor Ye's 6 clans. Today, the heroic deeds of the 6 great clans of the Qingshan Empire under the leadership of Yi Hao were recorded in the annals of history, and the names of the 6 great clans' patriarchs were also praised by future generations. After taking the elixir, Yi Hao's strength skyrocketed. Soon, he broke through the 9th level Spirit Emperor realm. Then he stepped into the half-step Spirit Emperor realm. Finally, under the impact of the turbulent spiritual power transformed by the elixir, he broke through the shackles between the Spirit Emperor realm and the Spirit Emperor realm, reaching the 1st level Spirit Emperor realm. Soul Spirit. A Spirit's Spirit. A strand of spirit floated out of Yi Hao's body. Yi Hao glanced at the people who were working together to resist the enemy, then drilled into the ground and went straight underground. In the deepest part of the mountain range, Yuan Mu looked at the struggling, sky-devouring beast in amusement and said, "What's going on with you? How can a few chains trap you?" Devouring Heaven immediately regretted and said, "If I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have arranged this formation. I've really been caught in my own web." "Forget it, don't struggle." Yuan Mu smiled and said, since he dared to make a move, he must have known that you wouldn't be able to break free from his shackles here. Besides, who allowed you to absorb spiritual energy from those black balls for so many days? If it wasn't for that, Yuan Shu wouldn't have targeted you. Devouring Heaven angrily said, "How could I have known that the Yuan family took away the demon beads? Those demon beads are part of this small world. At that time, I was seriously injured. With so much spirit chi delivered to my door, it would be a waste if I didn't take it. Yu, after so many years, your habit of taking advantage of others hasn't changed. You're still talking about me. After so many years, you haven't changed at all. You still like to pretend to be a pig to eat a tiger. With your strength, your position in that place definitely isn't low. Now, you don't look much better than me." Yuan Mu suddenly felt something. He looked up and said, "The one who tied the bell should untie it. The people who can save you are here. I'm leaving." "Hey, you're leaving just like that?" Devouring Heaven anxiously asked. "Of course." Yuan Mu spread his hands and said, "Now is not the time for me to show myself. Then what if the formation activates and my position is exposed? I'll take care of those people for you, but you owe me a favor." "Okay." Devouring Heaven felt relieved. "With your words, I'm relieved. You can go." Yuan Mu helplessly shook his head. He quickly passed through the mountain range and returned to his physical body. Yuan Mu stood up and yawned lazily. He went to the branch of a large tree and looked at the bloody battle not far away from the altar. He suddenly felt sleepy, so he gently sat down and leaned against the branch. He closed his eyes and fell asleep. Yi Hao, who was walking through the depths of the mountain range, suddenly felt a terrifying spirit force fluctuation. He turned around and went in the direction of the spirit force fluctuation. Not long after, Yi Hao's soul arrived at the deepest part of the mountain range. The spirit force fluctuation became more and more terrifying. Yi Hao walked over and found a huge black altar. There was a huge demonic beast tied up on top of the altar. When Yi Hao saw the demonic beast, he was shocked. He had seen this demonic beast before, and more than once. The first time he saw this demonic beast was when he was preparing to enter the first trial of the Heaven Street Convention. At that time, he saw this demonic beast. The second time was on a hill not far from the waterfall. He saw a spirit vein through the ground. There was a demonic beast coming out of the spirit vein. It was the demonic beast before him. In the distance, the heaven-devouring beast was surprised when it saw Yi Hao. It thought, "It's him? The brat who peeped at me twice? Is he really that person?" The heaven-devouring beast saw Yi Hao standing motionless and was a bit suspicious. Why is this brat standing still? It then checked his cultivation and found that Yi Hao was a first-order spirit emperor. Moreover, it was extremely unstable. It couldn't help but roll its eyes and mutter to itself, "What's going on? First-order spirit emperor, this is too weak. Could it be that the terrifying spirit force fluctuation on my body scared him? It seems that I have to restrain my aura." Yi Hao, who wasn't scared by the heaven-devouring beast, came back to his senses. He slowly walked towards the heaven-devouring beast and said to himself, "It seems that Yuan Shu's target should be this demonic beast. Hey, little brat, quickly help me undo this seal." The heaven-devouring beast looked at Yi Hao and said in a tone that said it was the biggest in the world. Chapter 15:14. Yi Hao was shocked and asked in confusion, you can actually speak?" Sky-devouring beast rolled its eyes at him and said disdainfully, "Brat, only low-level magical beasts can't speak. I'm a high-level magical beast, so I'm naturally different." Yi Hao carefully examined the black chains on Sky-devouring beast's body and discovered that there were faint runes flashing on each chain. He carefully looked at the runes and discovered that they came from the same place as the runes carved on the wall when he first came in. It should be the same array. When he first came in, the turbulent spiritual energy emitted by this magical beast made him feel suffocated. He had experienced this kind of suffocation not long ago. At that time, he had used all his strength and used all his cards, but he was still unable to hurt that person. One could imagine how terrifying this magical beast's strength was. The black altar under Sky-devouring beast's feet became brighter and brighter. It would be completely activated soon. At this moment, Sky-devouring beast panicked and hurriedly said, "Brat, can you do it or not? Can you break this array?" Yi Hao ignored it and continued to observe the array. Sky-devouring beast urged again. Yi Hao directly replied, "You're so powerful and you're a high-level magical beast. If you can do it, then do it. If you can't do anything, then just break this array and escape. If you can't do anything, then why are you shouting here? Shut up." Sky-devouring beast was stunned. It looked at Yi Hao's furious expression and its eyes suddenly became moist. Then it sank into deep memories. Yi Hao thoughtfully looked at the source of the black chains and discovered that the chains came from a wall. He muttered silently, and a red light suddenly flew down from the top of the mountain. Yi Hao walked over with his Wu Dao sword. Sky-devouring beast seemed to have seen through Yi Hao's thoughts and said, "Don't waste your energy. It's useless. If you can directly destroy that wall, I won't have to wait for you to save me." Yi Hao smiled and shook his head. "Who said I'm going to destroy that wall?" He approached the wall and faced a black chain. He held his sword with both hands, and a red light flashed. With a crack, a black chain fell to the ground. How is this possible? Sky-devouring beast's red eyes were filled with disbelief. Yi Hao ignored him. He raised his sword, and another black chain was broken. At this moment, Tunshin, who was on the altar, could clearly feel that the sealing power on its body had lessened. Only then did it believe that Yi Hao had really broken the two chains. "Little brat, interesting." Yi Hao held his sword and walked to another wall. "By the way, I still don't know your name." With a dignified expression, he roused his spiritual energy and slashed out with his sword, breaking the chain. "Looking at you reminds me of an old friend of mine. Just like you, he has a pair of crimson eyes and a crimson sword. He is very serious when he does things, and as long as he is willing to concentrate, there is nothing in this world that he cannot do. However, you lack something compared to him, and that is cunning." Looking at the weakening power of the seal, the devouring heaven-devouring beast could not help but grin and say a lot. Yi Hao finally came to the last wall. He raised his crimson sword at the last black chain. Just as he was about to swing it down, he suddenly stopped. Tunshin's joyful expression froze on its face. It asked suspiciously, "Swing it. Why aren't you swinging it down?" Yi Hao looked at it with a smile that was not a smile. Suddenly, a bad premonition arose in Tunshin's heart. At the top of the mountain, Ling Junyun held her chest and knelt on one knee. There were dozens of corpses around her. Most of these corpses were Yuan Shu's people, but a few of them were from the 6 great families. Qin Yunji came to her side and asked, "How is it? Can you still hold on?" Ling Junyun stood up and said indifferently, "Don't worry, I won't die. Although we managed to kill dozens of Yuan Shu's guards, we also suffered heavy losses." Qin Yunji's face had a hint of worry. "I wonder how Yi Sangao is doing. Since we chose to believe him, then don't doubt him. We just need to do our job well." Ling Junyun finished speaking. Just as she was about to charge again, she was pulled back by Qin Yunji. The two looked at Yuan Shu on the altar, and their expressions became ugly. According to their original plan, they just needed to kill Yuan Shu's guards so that Yuan Shu would not have enough spirit power to activate the spirit array. However, Yuan Shu seemed to have gone crazy. This was because while he was absorbing the spirit power of others, he was also trying to activate the spirit array. The disheveled Yuan Shu looked at the people fighting around him and laughed. "You think you can stop me like this? You're too naive. Spirit array, activate for me." Boom! At the center of the black altar, a red thread made of spirit power wrapped around Yuan Shu's body. At the same time, another red thread appeared on Tunshin's body and slowly wrapped around it. The spirit array had been activated. Yuan Shu grabbed the head of the guard beside him with one hand and poured all of his spirit power into the black altar. After absorbing all of the spirit power of the guard, he immediately switched to another guard. Soon, there was only him and a pile of bones left on the altar. He looked around and found that the guards he brought were all isolated and could not enter the altar. Yuan Shu sneered and waved his right hand. A Hao family guard closest to the altar suddenly flew into the altar. Yuan Shu grabbed him by the throat and lifted him into the air. Not long after, the guard turned into a pile of bones. The surrounding people were dumbfounded. In the next second, another Hao family guard was sucked into the altar and met the same fate. Damn, what's going on? Isn't Yuan Shu's strength a little too terrifying? We can't fight anymore. Let's go. Otherwise, the next one to be sucked in will be us. While everyone was talking, another guard lost his life. Everyone hurriedly left the altar. The more cowardly ones had already left the mountain in a panic. The leaders of the major families had serious expressions. The development of the situation was beyond their control. They could not stop Yuan Shu from activating the spirit array. Now, they could only place their hopes on Yi Hao. Deep in the mountain range, the sky-devouring beast looked at the red threads wrapped around its body and panicked. It said angrily, "Little bastard of the Yuan family, you really don't know what's good for you. You even dare to steal my spirit power?" Then, it looked at Yi Hao with a smile and said, "Little brother, can you help me break this seal?" Yi Hao's raised arm suddenly felt sore. He put down the Wu Dao sword and leaned against the wall. He smiled and said, "Didn't you not trust me? Didn't you say that I can't break this seal? I have eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. A great person will not hold a grudge against a petty person. Don't take it to heart." Yi Hao looked at the mischievous, sky-devouring beast and could not help but laugh. He said, "How are you a demonic beast? You're clearly a human. You change your face faster than flipping a book." Chapter 15:15. Just as the spirit formation was activated, a faintly discernible aura of a vicious beast suddenly rose from the depths of the mountain range. Yuan Mu, who had been sleeping on a tree trunk, suddenly sat up and lazily said, "After hiding for so many years, your aura was still exposed. Never mind, since we've been friends for so many years, I'll help you block this disaster." Just as he finished speaking, Yuan Mu's figure disappeared. Deep in the mountain range, the heaven-devouring beast chuckled and said, "Then can you help me undo the seal?" Yi Hao leaned against the wall and lazily said, "I just used too much spirit force. I'm tired." "Don't." The heaven-devouring beast's voice contained a hint of pleading. "There's only this last chain left. Just cut it off and I'll escape. Why should I help you?" The heaven-devouring beast's eyes kept rolling and it smiled. "Because you have a reason to help me." "Oh? What do you mean?" The heaven-devouring beast was no longer in a hurry. It laid on the altar and slowly said, "If I'm not wrong, you have a grudge against the person who wants to steal my spirit force. Otherwise, you wouldn't have taken a risk to come down here. If that guy really steals all my spirit force, not only you, but also everyone fighting above will die. Yi Hao calmly said, You're right, but if you don't have any spirit force, you'll be even more miserable than us. Do you think Yuan Shu will treat you as a pet, a mascot, or even kill you to eat? Yi Hao's words heavily hammered the heaven-devouring beast's heart. The heaven-devouring beast got up and roared. At worst, we'll fight to the death and die together. Sure. Yi Hao had an indifferent expression and said, Anyway, my spirit force isn't worth much, unlike you. The spirit force you worked so hard to cultivate is going to become someone else's wedding dress. The heaven-devouring beast could no longer remain calm and was completely defeated. It wouldn't give away its hundreds of years of cultivation. It said with regret, Fine, I take back what I said. It's not that you're not cunning, you're smart. Very smart. Tell me, what do I have to do to help me escape? Yi Hao walked up to the heaven-devouring beast and said, It's not that I don't want to help you escape, but what if you try to kill me after I help you? Don't worry. After you help me escape, not only will I not kill you, but I'll also repay you. Empty words. Then I shall make a heavenly oath. If I break my oath, I shall die under the heavenly tribulation. Yi Hao's eyes, but the heaven-devouring beast's cultivation was unfathomable. If he didn't succeed, the heaven-devouring beast and mind would kill him. Yi. Heaven Yi. To heaven. Heaven. After the two agreed, the heaven-devouring beast swore to the heavens. The so-called heavenly oath was to swear to the heavens. If the oath was broken, the heavenly tribulation would come, and the person who broke the oath would die under the rolling thunder of the heavenly tribulation. Once, there was a sage king who didn't take the heavenly oath seriously because of his high cultivation. In the end, the heavenly tribulation came, and 49 bolts of lightning fell. The saint king died after the 21st bolt of heavenly lightning struck. Since then, no one dared to take the heavenly oath seriously. After the heaven-devouring beast swore, Yi Hao and the heaven-devouring beast suddenly established a strange connection. The heaven-devouring beast knew that if it did what it promised Yi Hao, the connection would disappear. If it broke the promise, the heavenly tribulation would come. This strange connection was like an overseer. Yi Hao waved his hand. The heaven-devouring beast was confused. Yi Hao said helplessly, Move aside. The last chain is different from the previous chains. You can't use the same method as before to break it. Move to the side and leave the center of the altar for me. Oh, the heaven-devouring beast replied and dragged its sturdy body out of the center of the altar. Yi Hao came to the altar and suddenly felt an extremely tyrannical spirit energy tearing at his soul. The heaven-devouring beast anxiously split out a bit of spirit energy to protect Yi Hao. Yi Hao frowned and asked, How much spirit energy did you lose? I don't know how much spirit energy I lost. I only know that the little bastard from the Yuan clan is about to reach the spirit heaven emperor realm. Yi Hao sneered. A complete array diagram suddenly appeared in his eyes. He stabbed the scarlet Wu Dao sword into the center of the altar and said coldly, Spirit Heaven Emperor, this time I will make you fall into the dust. On the top of the mountain, Yuan Shu felt his spirit energy growing stronger and stronger, gradually touching the threshold of the Spirit Heaven Emperor realm. Spirit Heaven Emperor realm? One had to know that only a 6th rank empire had such a strong warrior. Their Green Mountain Empire had always been a 5th rank empire, and such a strong warrior had never appeared before. Now, he, Yuan Shu, was finally going to become a Spirit Heaven Emperor realm expert. Furthermore, the Spirit Heaven Emperor realm might not be the end, because he could feel that the spirit energy of the monster underground was far from the end. In other words, he might break through the Spirit Heaven Emperor realm and reach the Saint King realm. At this time, there was no one around the altar. Everyone was injured and stood far away from the altar. Suddenly, a figure appeared around the altar. Everyone focused their eyes and saw that it was actually Yi Hao who had just returned to his body. Yi Sangao, you can't. Yuan Shu is about to break through to the Spirit Heaven Emperor realm. What are you doing? Is this Yi Sangao crazy? He's not in a hurry to die, is he? Everyone was discussing at once. Zhou Tong and the other 5 were afraid that Yi Hao would meet with misfortune, so they anxiously rushed over. Yi hadn't even turned his head as he lightly swung his right hand backwards. A few flying swords that flashed with a cold light heavily stabbed into the ground where the 6 of them wanted to advance. Yi Hao stood still and said coldly, "None of you are allowed to move. Stand there and wait for me." "Young master," Zhou Tong roared. He wanted to rush over, but he remembered Yi Hao's orders. Thus, he stood there with Yin Jia and the others. Yi Hao came to the side of the altar and stepped onto it, standing opposite Yuan Shu. Yuan Shu looked at him in disdain and said, "You're back? Are you here to congratulate me? But to be honest, if it weren't for you, I really wouldn't have been able to complete this crazy plan." Yi Hao looked deeply at Ying Yi, who had been protecting Yuan Shu during the chaotic battle, and nodded without batting an eyelid. Yuan Shu looked at Yi Hao's unmoving figure and laughed. "What? Are you scared by my supreme might?" Bang! "Also, from today onwards, I am the monarch of the Qingshan Empire, the only monarch. When you see the monarch, you have to kneel." Yuan Shu kicked out. Yi Hao's legs could not withstand the pressure and knelt on the ground. Chapter 15-16. "Young master!" Zhou Tong and the others cried out in alarm. Ling Junyun, Qin Yunji, and the others had grave expressions, and some even had mocking expressions. In their opinion, it was very likely that Yi Hao had not removed the seal on the demonic beast. Otherwise, he would not have bowed down in front of Yuan Shu the moment he came up. Yi Hao, who was forced to bend his legs, had a calm expression as he coldly looked at Yuan Shu. Boom! Yuan Shu felt that his spirit energy had risen by a huge step, rising to a whole new realm, the Spirit Heaven Emperor realm. Yuan Shu looked at Yi Hao's calm expression and said with a slightly angry expression, "Do you know, I hate this kind of expression the most? I am a king, the only king. Your eyes should be filled with reverence and not the calmness you have right now." "Yuan Shu," Yi Hao spoke. This was the first time he had spoken since he stepped onto the altar. He looked at the disheveled Yuan Shu and said with a smile, "Do you know why I dared to come up here? Because you couldn't wait to kneel at my feet and beg me to forgive your previous actions and spare your dog life." Yi Hao shook his head and said with a smile, "No, no, no. I am here to send you to hell." Before he finished speaking, Yuan Shu's chest was suddenly pierced by a bloody long blade. Ling Junyun, Qin Yunji, and the others were all puzzled. Only Zhou Tong had a knowing smile on his face. Yi Hao slowly stood up and looked at the figure behind Yuan Shu. He nodded slightly and said, "You did well, as expected of a person taught by young Master Mu." Yuan Shu turned around with difficulty and looked at Ying Yi. He asked, "You are Yuan Mu's man?" "Impossible." Ying Yi took 2 steps back. His voice was no longer hoarse as he said, "I have always been young Master Mu's man. As for the real Ying Yi, he died a long time ago. Didn't you send Ying Yi to probe the strength of that mysterious woman? At that time, Ying Yi was severely injured by a blue-robed swordsman. Before he could rush back to the Celestial Cloud Pavilion, I killed him and then disguised myself as him, infiltrating the Celestial Cloud Pavilion. It's just that you didn't discover it at all." Yuan Shu had a crazed look on his face. He pointed at Yi Hao and roared, "Yuan Mu was just a blind man, and he's already dead. How could he have planted people around me and colluded with you?" Yi Hao said softly, "I don't want to explain anything to you. Starting from Qianshan Shuelian, it's time to settle the grudges between us." "Ha ha!" Yuan Shu slapped his chest, and the long saber flew out of his chest. He pointed at the crowd and said, "Good, very good. You all deserve to die. You deserve to die." Roar! With a low roar, Yuan Shu Ling's heavenly emperor realm's strength erupted. Yuan Shu stretched his hand forward. Before Ying Yi could react, Yuan Shu grabbed him by the throat and slammed him onto the altar. At this moment, Yi Hao waved his right hand and a red sword light flew out from the depths of the mountain range. landing directly on the black altar. The moment the Wu Dao sword landed on the altar, the black altar underwent some subtle changes. Yi Hao formed a seal with his hands and said furiously, "Yuan Shu, you're dead." Yuan Shu sucked hard, and Ing Yi turned into a pile of bones. After getting up, Yuan Shu quickly ran towards Yi Hao. At this moment, many red threads made of spiritual power appeared on the black altar. These threads slowly climbed up Yuan Shu's ankles. In an instant, Yuan Shu was wrapped in a red cocoon. The red threads that wrapped Yuan Shu didn't seem satisfied. They climbed up Yi Hao's ankles, and then Yi Hao was wrapped in a red cocoon as well. The surrounding people were confused. They were just about to fight. How did the two of them turn into red cocoons in an instant? Zhou Tong was one step ahead of the others. When he was about to rush onto the altar, a powerful spiritual power hit him and bounced him away. The others couldn't enter. They could only wait around the altar. Whether the result was good or bad, they could only accept it. 100 miles away from the mountains, there was a dense forest. At this moment, a huge black hole suddenly appeared in the sky above the forest. Then, a group of masked men in blue clothes with swords at their waists walked out. The masked man who walked out first looked around and said, "That's right, this is the small world." This small world was beaten into a state of ruin. Another masked man stood out and said, "We've been looking for that guy for so many years. I didn't expect him to be hiding here all this time. It really took us a long time to find him." According to the ripples that came from back then, the heaven-swallowing beast should be on the tallest mountain 100 miles away. A masked man with 2 swords at his waist said, "Let's not waste time. Let's go to the tallest mountain." Yes. Everyone received the order and was about to hurry on. A white figure appeared in front of them. That person was wearing white clothes and had a white cloth over his eyes. He yawned and said sleepily, "I finally found you." The masked leader looked at him warily and asked, "May I know who you are? Why are you blocking our path? Why are you looking for us?" "Blocking the path?" The white-clothed man was puzzled. "I'm not blocking your path. I just happen to be standing in the middle of the road. Is there a problem?" "No problem. We'll take a detour." The masked leader didn't want to cause more trouble. He didn't want to give the heaven-swallowing beast enough time to escape. Thus, he led the group around the white-clothed Yuan Mu. Yuan Mu stretched lazily. He put 2 fingers on his right hand together and made a light stroke. Boom, boom, boom. The trees around the masked man in blue suddenly collapsed. The masked leader turned around and said coldly, "We don't want to fight with you, but we're not to be trifled with. Please conduct yourself with dignity." Yuan Mu turned around and said indifferently, "No. Did I say you could leave? Who do you think you are? You reckless thing." One of the masked men couldn't help but stand up and say, "What a joke." They came from the Chaos Realm. They naturally didn't put the people of the ancient demon realm in their eyes. Thus, when someone blocked their path, they naturally questioned him with a condescending attitude. "Oh, are the people of the Chaos Realm that amazing?" The masked man was shocked. Yuan Mu stretched out his finger and tapped lightly. A hole appeared in the masked man's head. His body began to disappear, not even leaving behind a skeleton. The masked leader looked at Yuan Mu's attack, and cold sweat poured down. He said in surprise, "It's you? Why are you in the ancient demon realm? And here?" Yuan Mu didn't answer. He pointed again, and another masked man died and disappeared. "Run. We're no match for him." The masked leader saw Yuan Mu's killing method again and was shocked. He hurriedly ordered the group to scatter and escape. Chapter 15-17. Mu Tao happily ran to Yuan Mu's side and helped him to the table. She smiled and said, "Master, the food is here. The food is here." Yuan Mu reached out and gently touched Mu Tao's forehead. He smiled and said, "Look at you." Hee hee. Mu Tao giggled and didn't refute. She seemed to enjoy being touched by Yuan Mu. Not long after, 2 people walked into the main hall. Zhang Qing put the food box on the table and took out the food. He smiled and said, "Master Mu, sorry to keep you waiting." A Dong, who was standing to the side, raised his head and looked seriously at Yuan Mu, who was wearing a white cloth and wearing a white robe. He looked gentle and refined. As Mu Tao took the dishes, she complained, "Old Zhang, you guys came too late today. I'm starving to death." "Mu Tao, don't be rude," Yuan Mu said. Mu Tao stuck out her tongue and didn't say anything else. Yuan Mu held his chopsticks and smiled. "Old Zhang, the child doesn't know any better. Don't bicker with her. You must have been troubled by banished immortal again today. When we leave, I'll ask Mu Tao to give you more spirit coins." "Master Mu, you're exaggerating. This is nothing. If you want to eat, it's only right for us to give you food." "Oh, it's time to eat," Mu Tao shouted. She picked up her bowl and chopsticks and started sweeping through the food on the table. Yuan Mu smiled and picked up his bowl and chopsticks. He slowly chewed and swallowed, enjoying the food. Suddenly, Mu Tao put down her bowl and chopsticks with a clang. She lay on the table. Yuan Mu remained indifferent and continued to eat the rice in his bowl. Dong sat across from Yuan Mu, while Zhang Qing stood behind him. Dong cleared his throat and actually spoke. "Everyone says that young Master Mu is blind. I wonder how young Master Mu can tell." Yuan Mu put down his bowl and chopsticks and wiped his mouth with a handkerchief. He said, Yuan Mu, am blind, but I'm not a cripple. Dong, who usually delivers food with old Zhang, comes here in a panic. But you're different. You don't sound panicked. Instead, you're very calm." Dong cupped his hands and said, "Young Master Mu's hearing is extraordinary. I am impressed." Dong glanced at the dishes on the table and said with a smile, "It seems that young Master Mu is also hiding his strength." Yuan Mu smiled and asked, "Why do you think so?" "I put knockout drugs in the dishes on this table. Not only will ordinary people be knocked out, even masters of the Spirit Emperor realm will fall down. But young Master Mu is safe and sound. It's a bit unbelievable." Yuan Mu didn't reply. He asked with a smile, "May I know who you are? Why are you pretending to be a waiter?" Dong cleared his throat and said seriously, "I'm Yi Sangao. I have something important to discuss with young Master Mu." "Hee hee," Yuan Mu chuckled. "So it's Yi Zhuwa. What business do you have with me?" Yi Hao did not beat around the bush and said directly, "Help you seize power and get rid of Yuan Shu." The hall instantly fell silent, followed by a burst of laughter. Yi Hao was puzzled. Why is young Master Mu laughing? Yuan Mu stopped laughing and said with amusement, "I'm laughing because you don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Yuan Shu is the head of the Yuan clan and the master of the Celestial Cloud Pavilion. You want to get rid of him? How do you want to get rid of him?" Yi Hao said with a serious face, "I can't get rid of Yuan Shu alone. But what if Princess Ling and Yu Ingwan work together?" Yuan Mu picked up the wine on the table and poured a cup. "I didn't expect these two to be on the same side as you. I wonder if we're enough to get rid of him together." Yuan Mu tapped the table and asked, "Aren't you afraid that I'll report you?" Yi Hao laughed and stood up. He put his hands on the table and stared at Yuan Mu. "I'm afraid. Of course I'm afraid. But I'm more afraid that young Master Mu will die before me. Yuan Shu can't tolerate you. This isn't the first day or two. If you expose me, you'll probably die before I do. At that time, you'll be a threat to him. As you can see, I don't have anyone by my side. There's only a servant. How can I help you?" Yuan Mu changed the topic. "As far as I know, young Master Mu is the son of the first wife. There are many elders in the Celestial Cloud Pavilion on your side. Although young Master Mu is blind, his cultivation is impressive." Yi Hao didn't say anything else. He ate the food on the table silently. Yuan Mu tapped the table with his fingers. Finally, he seemed to have made a decision. He took out a piece of paper and placed it on the table. "This is the map of Yuan Shu's power distribution and the topography of the Celestial Cloud Pavilion." Yi Hao took the paper and smiled. "It seems that young Master Mu has been planning this all along. You've been waiting for an opportunity like me." Yi Hao put the paper away. He looked at Yuan Mu and asked curiously, "I really want to know. If I didn't come, what would young Master Mu have done?" Yuan Mu answered casually, "Find someone and kill someone." "Good." Yi Hao clapped and began to pack the food. Just as Yi Hao and Zhang Qing were about to leave, Yuan Mu called out to them, "Wait, with just us, we're still lacking. Young Master Mu, what do you think?" Yi Hao turned around and asked, "We're still missing an ally. Take this and go find him." Saying this, Yuan Mu threw a jade pendant over. Yi Hao took it and looked at it carefully. He found that there was nothing else on the jade pendant other than the word Mu carved on it. Yuan Mu frowned. "Why aren't you leaving?" Yi Hao smiled bitterly. "You only gave me a jade pendant. How would I know who to look for? Isn't old Zhang good at gathering information? You should ask him." Yuan Mu's casual words made Yi Hao and Zhang Qing break out in a cold sweat. How did Yuan Mu know what Zhang Qing did? He'd never left the mansion. This was too strange. Yuan Mu stood up and took Mu Tao into his arms. "I've said everything I needed to say. You can leave now." Zhang Qing looked a bit embarrassed, but he still said, "Young Master Mu, how about the money for the meal?" Yuan Mu's face darkened. He stood there in a daze. "Only Mu Tao knows where the money is. He's been knocked out by you. Come back tomorrow and deliver the meal. I'll pay you together." "All right." Hearing this, Zhang Qing cupped his hands and thanked Yi Hao. Then, he left with Yi Hao. The two left the Yuan mansion without a hitch. On the way, Yi Hao carefully looked at the jade pendant in his hand. He didn't find anything special about it, so he handed it to Zhang Qing. Zhang Qing took the jade pendant and looked at it carefully. Yi Hao looked back at the Yuan mansion and muttered to himself, "Yuan Mu isn't simple." Suddenly, Zhang Qing exclaimed, "Young master, I know who to look for." Chapter 1519. How Gui subconsciously nodded his head, then doubtfully asked, "How do you know?" "That's my family's heirloom, passed down from my ancestors until now. Very few people know about it." Heaven-devouring beast extended its sharp claws, pointed at How Gui, and laughed. "Idiot. What family heirloom? That's the big bowl I used to drink wine, but it was picked up by your ancestors and treated as a family heirloom." "What?" How Gui was completely dumbfounded, muttering, "My family's family heirloom is actually a little dog's drinking bowl. How is that possible?" Heaven-devouring beast coldly snorted, not caring about how Gui called it, and pointed at Huangfu Yunji. Huangfu Yunji's heart trembled, having a bad premonition. "You're a member of Huangfu family?" Huangfu Yunji hastily shook his head and said, "No." Heaven-devouring beast sneered, "That jade thumb ring on your hand betrayed you, idiot." Huangfu Yunji was stunned, looking at the jade thumb ring on his hand. Then looking at the little dog in Yi Hao's hand, he doubtfully asked, "This jade thumb ring is also yours?" Heaven-devouring beast proudly said, "Nonsense, otherwise how would I know? This thing was a token of love given to a certain fairy when I was chasing her. However, later that fairy was assassinated by her enemies, and when I rushed over, only this bloody jade thumb ring was left." "You're bragging. How can a girl wear this thing?" Huangfu Yunji did not believe and replied, "You don't believe? Look carefully. Isn't there a red mark in the thumb ring?" Huangfu Yunji carefully observed, and sure enough, he saw a red mark. Also, a normal jade thumb ring is worn on the thumb, but the one in your hand can only be worn on the little finger. After so many years, you still haven't figured it out? Huangfu Yunji did not understand. However, the people around them burst into laughter. Soon after, Huangfu Yunji immediately understood why everyone was laughing. He hastily took off the jade thumb ring and put it in his bosom. When Han Shi and the others looked at Heaven-devouring beast again, their eyes carried a trace of reverence, because not only was what the little dog said completely correct, but the origin of each item was also very clear. It did not seem to be randomly made up. Heaven-swallowing beast looked at Qing Yunji, but before it could speak, Qing Yunji spoke first. Qing Yunji walked forward respectfully and cupped his hands. "Senior, there is no need to say any more. Junior was blind, and I apologize to you." The heaven-devouring beast nodded with satisfaction. "You must be a descendant of the Qing clan. No wonder why your ancestor could find such a great treasure here. I can tell just from your intelligence." Following this, heaven-swallowing beast looked at Qing Yunji's skinny palm and asked, "Was this caused by the spirit formation changing?" Qing Yunji said respectfully, "Yes. May I ask if Senior has a way to break it?" The sky-devouring beast stood on Yi Hao's palm and said in an old-fashioned manner, "I gave you a pole, and you dared to climb it. Senior, please save me." "Fine." The sky-devouring beast stretched out its sharp claws and said, "Seeing that you are smarter than them, I will help you this once. Stretch out your hand." "Thank you, Senior." Qing Yunji was delighted and reached out his hand. The heaven-devouring beast closed its eyes and placed its sharp claws on Qing Yunji's palm. The surrounding people looked at this scene nervously because they wanted to know if this little dog really had something in its stomach or if it was just bluffing them. After a white light flashed on Qing Yunji's palm, the heaven-devouring beast's frown relaxed. Qing Yunji looked at his palm in surprise and realized that it was no longer as lifeless as before. Instead, it was filled with energy and strength. Not only that, but his cultivation level was still rising and slowly stabilizing its second-level spirit monarch. The others all knelt in front of the heaven-devouring beast. They wanted the heaven-devouring beast to give them some opportunities. Han Shi, Hao Gui, and Huangfu Yunji were the ones who knelt the most. The heaven-devouring beast's tail rose higher and higher. Just as it was about to speak, it heard a cough behind it. The heaven-devouring beast chuckled and turned to look at the smiling Yi Hao. Its hair stood on end as it coughed and said, "You don't have to kneel to me. Yi Sanggao is now my big brother. If you have any problems, you can look for him." Then Yi Hao placed the cursing, sky-devouring beast on his shoulder and looked at everyone with a smile. Han Shi and the other two looked at each other and were in a difficult position. They had just cursed at Yi Hao. Now, they had to put down their faces and ask Yi Hao for opportunities. They were really embarrassed. Qing Yunji took a deep breath and knelt in front of Ling Junyuan. "Princess Ling, I, Qing Yunji, am willing to lead the entire Qing family to pledge allegiance to you and assist you in governing the country." Ling Junyuan helped Qing Yunji up and smiled. "Qing Zhuhua is too serious. In the future, the Qingshan Empire will need everyone to work together." Hula, Han Shi and the other two didn't care about their faces. They knelt in front of Ling Junyuan and declared, "The three of us are also willing to pledge allegiance to you and assist you in governing the country." Just a moment ago, they weren't far from becoming subordinates. Now, they were kneeling in front of Ling Junyuan. Ling Junyuan replied indifferently, "And get up." The three didn't dare to say anything in front of Ling Junyuan's cold attitude. After all, they were the last to pledge allegiance. They weren't as loyal as Yuing Wan and weren't as courageous as Qing Yunji. Yi Hao looked at the crowd and smiled indifferently. Since everyone has expressed their stance, then our 7 pillar countries should help each other in the future and work together to advance. We must not scheme against each other and scheme against our own people. "Yes." Hao Gui looked at the unconscious Yuan Shu and asked doubtfully, "Yuan Shu can still be a pillar nation in this state?" Ling Junyuan replied, "Of course not." "Then who is the other pillar nation?" "Yuan family, Yuan Mu." Yi Hao stood with his hands behind his back with a calm expression. "What? Yuan Mu? Isn't he blind?" "That's right. Yuan Mu's ability isn't as good as Yuan Shu's. I don't think a blind man can be a pillar nation." "I don't agree." Yi Hao's lips curled up. His body suddenly moved. Bang! Not far away from them, a crack suddenly appeared on the ground, and a cloud of dust rose up. When the dust settled, 2 figures were revealed. One was lying on the ground, and the other was standing. "Cough, cough." Han Shi, who was stepped on by Yi Hao, said in a sorry state, "Third Hai Yi, you and I are both pillars of nations. You dare to treat me like this?" Noisy. Yi Hao raised his foot and stomped heavily on Han Shi's chest. Crack! Everyone clearly heard the sound of bones breaking. However, no one dared to look in that direction. It was as if they didn't see anything. "You were against Princess Ling's ascension. You're still against Yu and Mu's ascension. Since you like to oppose so much, why don't you go to the underworld and oppose the King of Hell?" The foot that stepped on Han Shi's chest unconsciously increased the strength. This time, Han Shi was really scared. Chapter 15:20. I was wrong. Yi Zhuhua I was wrong. Please be merciful and let me go. Cough, cough. I won't object anymore. Please, let me go this time. Yi Hao looked at Han, she's pleading face. Only then did he raise his foot and stretch. He returned to the crowd as if nothing had happened and prepared to leave. Qing Yunji looked at Yi Hao's back and hesitated for a moment before asking, Yi Zhuguo, please wait. Yi Hao turned around and asked, What's the matter? I want to ask, what is the origin of the demonic beast on your shoulder? Yi Hao patted the little dog's forehead. The heaven-devouring beast, who had just fallen asleep, looked at Yi Hao with annoyance and said, I am the heaven-devouring sacred beast. Io. Get to the point. Yi Hao impatiently knocked the heaven-devouring beast's forehead. The heaven-devouring beast glared at Yi Hao and said, I am the master of this small world. The ancestors of your 7 great clans have some relationship with me. I have been here for the past 100 years. The target that Yuan Shu wants to replace is me. Suddenly, Ling Junyun and Yu Yingluan were stunned. They looked at the little dog on Yi Hao's shoulder. The others were in awe of the little dog. The spiritual energy that Yuan Shu wanted to steal came from this little dog. This meant that this little dog's strength was heaven-defying. They could not provoke it in the future. Even when he looked at Yi Hao, there was a hint of fear in his eyes. That's more like it. Yi Hao turned around. After taking 2 steps, he suddenly thought of something and said, That's right. I will give each of you 10 days. You can look for your own opportunities in this small world. After 10 days, this small world will be completely closed and will no longer be open. In other words, this will be the last ancestral worship assembly. After saying that, Yi Hao left the crowd looking at each other with his back facing him and went straight down the mountain. Zhou Tong and the others quickly followed. Ling Junyun and Yu Yingluan looked at each other and ordered people to bring Yuan Shu and followed. As a result, only the people from the 4 great clans were left on the mountaintop. Hao Gui stood beside Qing Yunji and muttered, I didn't expect this kid to grow so quickly. He is already on the same level as us. No. Qing Yunji shook his head and sighed. At the start, he was just a minor character in our eyes. Now, he has become someone we have to look up to. With his karmic luck, I'm afraid he won't be far from soaring. He slapped us in the face and gave us a sweet date. Huangfu Yunji whispered, He really can talk cheerfully and wittily, and also has thunderous methods. To have such wisdom at such an age, following him seems to not be a loss. Green Fallen Peak, Yuan Manor. Yuan Mu's room suddenly lit up with white light. After the white light disappeared, a white figure appeared in the room. You're back? A voice came from the darkness. Yes, Yuan Mu replied indifferently. He walked towards the bed and looked at the sleeping Mu Tao. How is it? Devouring Heaven is not dead. He escaped the seal. Those people still want to kill him. Yuan Mu had confirmed 3 things on this trip. To be precise, it was 4 things. It was just that the last thing hadn't been revealed yet. Those people, Fang Yu, who was hiding in the darkness, was filled with anger when he said these 3 words. He said, They clearly have great power, but they're still unwilling to let go of people like us who can only live in the darkness. I really don't know when these days will come to an end. Yuan Mu did not seem angry at all. He said indifferently, Don't worry, it will be soon. He touched Mu Tao's forehead and found that it was a bit hot. He asked, Did Yuan Shu send people here? Yes. Was it Mu Tao? Yes. Yuan Mu gently opened Mu Tao's eyelids. He found that her pupils were still black. Only then did his hanging heart relax. He said, Did anyone find out? No. Fang Yu paused and then said, Before they came, I told Mu Tao to stop and she fell into a deep sleep. That's good. How is Mu Tao? Fang Yu said helplessly. Still the same. Her situation is not stable. Once she goes berserk, it is easy to lose her mind. Yuan Mu stood up and stood in front of the window. He said angrily, I already said that this method would not work. If it was not handled properly, these children would lose their lives. But they insisted on doing it. If I had not returned at the last moment, I fear that not a single child would have been saved. There is nothing we can do about it. After all, no one wants to live in the darkness forever. If you don't want to live in the darkness, you have to gamble with these children's lives. Yuan Mu roared. Even if you succeed, won't you feel uneasy and guilty that these children's lives were exchanged for victory? But we have lived in the darkness for 100 years. It has been a long time since we stood in the sunlight. Fang Yu's voice grew louder and louder, his voice full of desire. Yuan Mu was about to speak when Mu Tao coughed twice. She was about to wake up. Cough, cough. Water. I want to drink water. Fang Yu remained silent. Yuan Mu calmed his anger. He came to the table, poured a cup of water, and fed it to Mu Tao. Then, Mu Tao slowly opened her eyes and looked at Yuan Mu. Young master, actually, I heard your conversation. Yuan Mu's body trembled, but he did not speak. Mu Tao gripped the teacup tightly and smiled bitterly. I know that young master treats me very well, and I am reluctant to leave young master. But one day I will go back, because my home is there. Everyone is born with their own mission. Mu Tao is no exception. So one day, when Mu Tao wants to carry out my mission, young master, please do not stop me. I don't want to see young master hurt, nor do I want to see young master sad. As long as young master is well, Mu Tao will be at ease. Mu Tao lay in Yuan Mu's arms and talked endlessly. When she fell asleep, a tear fell on Mu Tao's red face. You heard it too. Shut up. Yuan Mu shouted and placed Mu Tao on the bed. He stood by the window, his heart filled with hatred. Yuan Manor, Celestial Cloud Pavilion. In the secret chamber of Yuan Manor, Wu Wenyong, Du Xing, and Zhang Xing were looking at the mountain of natural treasures in front of them with smiles on their faces. Du Xing walked over and grabbed 1,000-year-old ginseng. He smiled and said, with these things, the strength of our Tianyuan Empire will rise to another level. Ha! This Yuan Shu is indeed worthy of being the pavilion master of the Celestial Cloud Pavilion. He actually hid so many good things. It's a pity that they are all ours. Zhang Qing also looked at the natural treasures with shining eyes. The elites of the Celestial Cloud Pavilion had all been taken away by Yuan Shu. Hence, the three of them could easily break in and plunder many good things. Chapter 1521. While the three of them were carefully inspecting the treasures, a death warrior rushed in with a hurried expression. Zhang Qing looked at the man of sacrifice and asked, what happened? Why are you so flustered? The man of sacrifice cupped his hands and said respectfully, Sir, the brothers we sent to Tanyuan New City have returned. What? Wu Wenyong was shocked and asked hurriedly, they're back? Why are they back? Didn't you say that they don't have to come back after sending them to Tianyuan New City? What happened? Du Xing asked with a sullen face. He was the one who recruited this group of men of sacrifice and was in charge of them. Now that they did not do their job well, he was naturally embarrassed. Sir, they are in the residence. Please follow me. Wu Wenyong and the other two followed the man of sacrifice out of the secret room and saw the group of people who went to Tianyuan New City in the hall. There were 10 people who went, but only 5 came back. However, Wu Wenyong's family was safe and sound. Only 5 men of sacrifice were killed. Father, mother, sister, are you okay? Wu Wenyong ran to his family and asked with concern. We're fine. It's just that many of the guards who escorted us died. A middle-aged man in black with a straight back and a full beard said, Yes, we're all fine. It's just that the guards had a hard. A spirited middle-aged woman in plain clothes said as she held a skinny little girl in her arms. The 3 of them were completely different from the 3 people he saw at the ruined temple. Wu Wenyong was relieved and asked someone to take his family back to their room to rest. He then looked at the 2 surviving guards and asked, What happened? Why did you lose so much? This is the mission given by the young emperor. You messed it up. Do you know what to do? Du Xing said with a sullen face while carrying 2 swords. Ghost face, that's enough. Let them explain themselves first. Zhang Qing interrupted Du Xing and looked at the 2 men of sacrifice sternly. The 2 men of sacrifice knelt on the ground and explained everything that happened along the way. The group of 10 people kept using teleportation formations in big cities. After 3 days of traveling, they finally arrived at the border of the Qingshan Empire. They rested for a night. Just as they were about to cross the border, a group of people suddenly surrounded them. The leader said that the Tianyuan Empire was now forbidden to enter and leave. They were trespassing and disregarded the rules set by the Yuan Empire. They said that they would kill us. In the end, we fought with all our might and escaped. Full Moon Empire? Wu Wenyong muttered to himself. Did the Full Moon Empire attack us? You mean that you were stopped as soon as you entered the empire? Zhang Qing asked. Yes. Do you know what happened? After that, we found out that the Full Moon Empire had sent a messenger to make the Tianyuan Empire their vassal state. Unfortunately, he didn't even see the young emperor after a while. So, the messenger returned angrily and reported the situation to the Full Moon Emperor. Du Xing was furious. Who does he think he is? How dare he ask our young emperor to apologize to him? Zhang Qing continued. 3 days passed. The emperor didn't go. Then, the Yuan Empire sent all their troops to Tianyuan City. At the same time, they stationed troops at the empire's border. How dare they? Du Xing slammed the table and stood up. How dare they send troops to Tianyuan City? They're courting death. Zhang Qing leaned back in his chair and muttered to himself, I didn't expect something like this to happen in Tianyuan City. Wu Wenyong pondered carefully. The emperor has gone to participate in the ancestral worship ceremony. We don't know when he'll be back. We can't just wait here. We have to take the initiative. Du Xing narrowed his eyes and asked, Brother Wu, what do you think? Wu Wenyong stood still and said, Isn't the Full Moon Empire very weak now? Let's send our troops to the Full Moon Empire's imperial city and lure the Full Moon Empire's people to retreat and save themselves. This way, the danger in New Tianyuan City can be resolved. Okay, I'll gather the men now. Let's go together. Du Xing stood up. Zhang Qing stopped him and said, The Yuan Empire is a 5th-rank empire. Their foundation can't be underestimated. I'm afraid our plan won't work. Then what good idea do you have? Du Xing asked impatiently. Wu Wenyong knew Zhang Qing's concerns and smiled. Brother Zhang, don't worry. We'll take 40 men and split into 2 groups to sneak into Yuan Empire. Even if we encounter danger, we can protect ourselves with our strength. I'll leave 10 men with you. You just wait here for the emperor to return. After all, someone needs to report this to him. Okay, that's it. Du Xing waved his hand and went to gather the men. Zhang Qing didn't have a good idea at the moment. He sighed and said, Okay, then you must be careful. Don't worry. Wu Wenyong patted Zhang Qing's shoulder and said, I'll leave my family to you. No problem. After that, 42 black silhouettes left the Qing Luo district and the Qingshan Imperial City, heading straight for the Full Moon Imperial City. In a small world, there was a dilapidated mansion. Yi Hao found a pavilion and sat down. The sky-devouring beast lay on Yi Hao's shoulder in boredom and asked, Why are you sitting here instead of looking for opportunities? Opportunities? Yi Hao looked around in disdain and said with a smile, I don't care about the opportunities here. You, the sky-devouring beast, was speechless and said, TSK, you only know how to brag. Yi Hao smiled faintly and didn't argue with him. What a joke. Yi Hao had the system. Okay, what kind of opportunities didn't he have? Why would he care about the opportunities in this dilapidated small world? Yi Hao narrowed his eyes, and a surge of star power slowly entered his body. Why are you sitting here? Waiting for someone. Waiting for who? Waiting for someone to listen to your story. What do you mean? The sky-devouring beast didn't understand, but then its eyes widened. It looked at the increasing star power in Yi Hao's body and exclaimed, Star and moon transformation? Where did you get the star and moon transformation technique from? Yi Hao exclaimed, you actually know this technique. You didn't live so long for nothing. The star and moon transformation technique has never been taught to outsiders. How did you get it? Why should I tell you? Yi Hao rolled his eyes and continued to cultivate. The sky-devouring beast despised him in its heart. No wonder he looked down on the opportunities here. It turns out that there's such a good thing here. I wanted to get the star and moon transformation technique for a long time, but never had the chance. This time, I can get it from this kid. Suddenly, Yihao opened his eyes and said softly, "It's here." Chapter 15:22. Yihao's heart trembled. He withdrew his star force and sat down on the stone bench. The heaven-devouring beast lying on the stone table didn't understand what was going on until two figures appeared in front of it. The heaven-devouring beast looked at the man and woman in front of it and said, "So, it's you two. What's the matter?" Yihao waved his hand at the two and said, "Sit down and talk." Ling Junyun and Yuing Wan looked at each other and then sat down beside Yihao. Looking at the two of them, Yihao suddenly recalled the promise the three of them had made in the private room of the inn. At that time, Yuing Wan had asked Yu Sanjiang to invite Yihao because Princess Ling wanted to see Yihao and rope in Yihao for her own use. At that time, Princess Ling wanted to know the truth of what happened 10 years ago and also wanted to get rid of the threat of the other families. However, she didn't have anyone she could use, so she thought of Yihao. Yuing Wan actually didn't like Yu Wenshu's character. He was a spy that Princess Ling had placed at Yu Wenshu's side. As for why Yuing Wan and Princess Ling came together, it was mainly because the two of them wanted to find out what happened at the ancestral worship assembly 10 years ago. As a result, the three of them hit it off and agreed to get rid of the patriarchs of the other families of the ancestral worship assembly. The reward for winning the first place at the ancestral worship assembly was something that Princess Ling had intentionally done. It was to make Yu Wenshu trust Yihao as much as possible and also to let Yihao enter the ancestral worship assembly. After the trial assembly ended, Yihao smoothly won as they and Yu Wenshu had expected. As such, the ancestral worship assembly plan was imminent. Yihao was worried that the three of them wouldn't be able to complete the plan, so he disguised himself as a waiter and went to the Yuan manor with Zhang Qing. He saw Yuan Mu and pulled him to the same side. In the end, Yuan Mu gave him a jade pendant and told him to find that person. That person was actually the fake Ying Yi who had been hiding at Yu Wenshu's side. Zhang Qing had seen the same jade pendant on Ying Yi, so he knew that Ying Yi was someone Yuan Mu had planted beside Yu Wenshu. He secretly met with Ying Yi and conveyed Yuan Mu's message. However, they didn't expect that Yu Wenshu would disrupt all their plans. Even so, their alliance still existed. In the end, Yihao borrowed the power of devouring the heavens to defeat Yu Wenshu and subdue the various large clans. This matter came to an end, but before he left, Yihao asked the glutton Leviathan to convey an important message. The glutton Leviathan had lived here for 100 years. Since it had lived here for 100 years, the heaven-devouring beast must know what had happened 10 years ago. Ling Junyun and Yuing Wan had been bitterly searching for the truth, so when they heard that the sky-devouring beast was the master of this place, had lived here for 100 years, and was related to their ancestors, they could not help but follow. Yihao and the other two looked at each other and smiled. Then Yihao shouted into the distance, "Since you're here, why don't you show yourself? If you're interested in what happened 10 years ago, just sit down and listen. There's no need to hide." Ha ha! A burst of hearty laughter came from not far away. Then, a familiar figure landed on the last stone bench. Yihao looked at the figure opposite him and probed. It seems that Brother Qing is very curious about the origins of the glutton Leviathan. Qing Yunji smiled faintly and said, "Brother, ye misunderstood. Actually, I'm very curious about what happened 10 years ago. After all, my father also participated in that incident. When he returned, he was bedridden and passed away not long after. It seems that I've misunderstood Brother Qing." Yihao looked at the glutton Leviathan and said, "All right, now that everyone is here, you can start telling the story." The glutton Leviathan looked at the eager and curious eyes of Ling Junyun and the other two and sighed helplessly. "Sigh, I've already forgotten about that disaster 10 years ago, but looking at your eyes, I feel that it's still vivid in my mind. It's as if it happened yesterday. Where should I start?" The four looked at the glutton Leviathan's sad appearance and didn't disturb it. They just listened quietly. 10 years ago, your fathers came to this small world. I thought that they would be like usual, searching for their own opportunities in this small world. After 3 days, they would leave. But who knew that the Yuan clan had already built the Black Altar 10 years ago? They wanted to steal my spirit energy, but due to various restrictions, they couldn't complete it. I only found out about this later. The Yuan clan couldn't activate their spirit energy, so they wanted to use me. They wanted to disregard the teachings of their ancestors and remove the seal on me. Unfortunately, they didn't have the ability. Not only did they fail to remove my seal, they even exposed my presence. Back then, I was lucky enough to survive a great battle and was saved by your 7 ancestors. All these years, I've been hiding from my enemies. That's why I had your ancestors seal me, to hide my aura so that I wouldn't attract my enemies. After my presence was exposed, it attracted a very powerful enemy. I brought my sealed body and fought a bloody battle with your fathers. Only then did we kill that enemy. But in the end, we were all heavily injured. So when your fathers returned, they were either bedridden or passed away not long after. Yuan angrily slammed the stone table and said angrily, "If that's the case, it's all that old fox's fault. Damn it." Qing Yunji frowned and said, "But as far as I know, the old fox of the Yuan family was not bedridden after he returned. Instead, he was alive and well. Until recently, he was replaced by Yuan Shu. What is going on?" When the sky-devouring beast thought of this, it was furious and said, "Thinking about it makes me very angry. Back then, when a few of us were facing a strong enemy together, that old fellow couldn't win and ran away. Before he ran, he even took a lot of treasures from me. Those 3 black beads were originally part of my small world, but they were also taken away by that old fellow. So that's how it is." Ling Junyun murmured, "Now I understand why my father has been unconscious." Yuan expression was somewhat sad. "I used to hate my father, but now I admire him very much. He didn't hesitate to sacrifice his life to complete the agreement between our ancestors and seniors. Although he wasn't a good father, he is our Yu clan's hero." The sky-devouring beast looked at Yuan as if it suddenly thought of something and said, "That's right. Why is your Yu family's spirit veins being used up so quickly? In fact, it's because your father offered up his family's spirit veins to heal me." "No matter." Yuan stood up and said in a carefree manner, "Right now, Yu clan doesn't need spirit vein. We can rely on our own strength to stand firm in Qingshan Empire." Boom! A burst of spirit emperor aura exploded from Yuan's body. Chapter 1523. Yuan had solved the knot in his heart that had troubled him for 10 years, so he naturally became a spirit emperor. "Brother Yu, congratulations." Qing Yunji cupped his fists. "Family head Yu, you've finally broken through. Congratulations." Yihao also gave his blessings. Ling Junyun smiled and said, "Congratulations, Uncle Yu. Our Qingshan Empire has gained another spirit emperor." "Ha!" Yuan laughed and said to Tunshin, "Thank you, Senior, for solving Junior's knot." It was rare that the heaven-devouring beast didn't tease them. Instead, it said solemnly, "Speaking of which, I still owe you guys. How about this? I'll extend the 10 days to 13 days. It's also a little compensation to you guys." "Thank you, Senior." Qing Yunji got up and said, "Since we've figured out what happened 10 years ago, we'll go find our own opportunities. Princess Ling, Brother Yi, Senior, goodbye." Yuan and Qing Yunji left side by side. Ling Junyun got up and was about to leave when Tunshin stopped her. "Little girl, I see that you've been stuck in the Spirit Emperor realm for many years. I have a way to help you break through." "Really?" Ling Junyun's face showed a trace of joy. She didn't remember how long she had been in the Spirit Emperor realm. She only remembered that it was a very long time. She had been looking for a way to break through for so many years, but to no avail. Yihao straightened his expression and said sternly, "Heaven-devouring, don't mess around." The sky-devouring beast was surprised. He looked at Yihao curiously and said, "She was a phoenix in the first place. Since she can't be a sparrow, why cut off her wings?" Yihao's expression was serious, and he was clearly thinking about it. If I hide my entire life like this, will trouble not come to me? Tunshin said in self-mockery. If one day trouble comes to me and I don't have the ability to protect myself, how will I deal with it? Yihao's expression became more serious. He clearly couldn't make up his mind. Ling Junyun stood there in confusion. She clearly didn't know what the two were talking about. What phoenix, sparrow, and trouble? What trouble? Wasn't the biggest trouble in the past the threat of the big families? But wasn't it already resolved? Yihao finally made up his mind and said, "All right, we'll do as you say." At the same time, Yihao muttered to himself, "Qingshan Emperor, don't blame me." What the sky-swallowing beast said makes sense. No matter how much the phoenix hides its edge, it can't become a sparrow on the ground. Although Ling Junyun didn't understand, she knew that the little mud on the table would definitely be able to help her break through to the Spirit Emperor realm. As a result, she would have more confidence sitting in that position and would be able to help her father protect the Ling family's foundation. "Little girl, give me your hand." Ling Junyun did as she was told and stretched out her delicate palm. The sky-devouring beast closed its eyes and raised its sharp claws to meet Ling Junyun's palm. The moment their palms touched, a suffocating feeling immediately surrounded Ling Junyun. Ling Junyun felt that she was in darkness, and the darkness was filled with ghostly wails and howls. Those howls were filled with grief and pain. She felt like she was about to run out of breath. Suddenly, there was a yellow light in front of her. She instinctively rushed towards the yellow light. Just as her palm came into contact with the yellow light, the suffocating feeling slowly dissipated. Wrapped in the yellow light, Ling Junyun looked in front of her in disbelief. This was because there was a parasol tree in front of her, and at the top of the parasol tree perched a beautiful phoenix. The phoenix seemed to have sensed something and glanced at Ling Junyun, who was staring straight at it. The moment their gazes met, a sorrowful cry pierced Ling Junyun's eardrums. Then, she saw the phoenix flap its beautiful wings and fly into the sky. Just as the phoenix flapped its wings and flew high, Ling Junyun felt a shackle fall from her heart. In a huge prison in the Chaos Realm, on the 18th floor of the underground prison, a middle-aged man with a gloomy face and small wounds covered his body was locked up. The man's hands and feet were bound by the chains on the wall behind him. He lowered his head to look at the dark and damp floor. Suddenly, he felt a surge of heartache. The man's expression changed slightly, and he began to stretch his hands forward. The chains in the prison rustled, as if he wanted to escape. The man used a hoarse voice to roar. "Roar? I want to get out. Let go of me." Unfortunately, only echoes responded to him. No one paid attention to his roar. Even if someone heard it, they would only pretend not to hear it. The man seemed to be tired. He knelt on the ground, and the room returned to silence. He had already lived here for 18 years. He originally thought that he could live here for another 18 years, but that heartache just now told him that his daughter had appeared. This also meant that his daughter was in danger. The person who locked him up would not let his daughter go. Qingshan Empire, small world. The sky-devouring beast suddenly retracted its hand and lay on the stone table, panting heavily. Yihao anxiously asked, "How is it?" The sky-devouring beast patted its chest with lingering fear and exclaimed, "Oh my God, it really is a phoenix, and an incredible one." Yihao rolled his eyes and said, "I'm not asking you if she's a real phoenix, but how is she?" The sky-devouring beast stood on the stone table with its four limbs on the ground and said, "Don't worry, she is fine, and she will soon break through to the spirit monarch realm. As for what level she will break through to, I don't know." "What do you mean?" Yihao did not understand. Wasn't breaking through from the 9th level spirit emperor realm to the 1st level spirit monarch realm? Could it be that she could directly break through to the 3rd level? As soon as he finished speaking, Ling Junyun's body surged with a strong spiritual power. Then, Ling Junyun's aura began to rise. Soon, she broke through to the 1st level spirit monarch realm and reached the realm that Yihao had stepped into before. After breaking through to the 1st level spirit monarch realm, the rising aura did not stop. Soon, It broke through to the second-level spirit monarch realm, then the third-level spirit monarch realm, and it was still rising. Yihao was dumbfounded. He had seen people break through to the next level, but he had never seen such a tyrannical one. The sky-devouring beast was very calm and mocked. "Country bumpkin, you haven't seen the world yet, right? There was once someone who broke through 5 levels in one go. This is nothing. I think it is at most 4 levels. Also, I've already told you, this phoenix is incredible. It is not an ordinary phoenix." Sure enough, as the sky-devouring beast said, Ling Junyun's rising aura completely stabilized at the 4th-level spirit monarch realm. However, this action of breaking through 4 levels was enough to make Yihao dumbfounded. The sky-devouring beast could understand Yihao's reaction. After all, this was the ancient demon realm. Chapter 1524. Ling Junyun slowly opened her eyes. She looked at Yihao, who had been staring at her, and asked, "What's wrong? Is there something on my face? Why are you staring at me like that?" Yihao shook his head, speechless. The sky-devouring beast smiled and said, "He was shocked by you. Breaking through 4 realms in one go isn't something that anyone can do. No one will think you're mute if you don't speak." Yihao flicked the sky-devouring beast. The sky-devouring beast's teeth itched. It wanted to rush forward, but Yihao pressed it against the stone table. Ling Junyun looked at this humorous scene and couldn't help but laugh. "I just felt like I had a very long dream. When I woke up, I was already a 4th-order spirit monarch." Yihao shrugged and said, "Now you're the #1 expert in the Qingshan Empire. No one will dare to find trouble with you. I can go home." "Go home?" Ling Junyun asked. "You're going back to the Tianyuan Empire?" "Yes." Yihao stretched and placed his hand on the stone table. The sky-devouring beast climbed onto Yihao's shoulder skillfully. "I've been out for a long time. I should go back." "All right." Ling Junyun didn't stop him and said, "Anyway, from now on, you're the prince consort and pillar of the Qingshan Empire. Our 2 empires are neighbors. If you need any help, just say it." Yihao waved his hand and smiled bitterly. "I can accept the pillar of the Qingshan Empire, but forget about the prince consort. You and I both know that's a plan to deal with you and Shu. News of our marriage has already spread throughout the ancient demon domain. If you refuse, where will my dignity after ascending to the throne go?" Okay, I won't refuse this matter, but let's forget about the marriage. That won't do. Qingshan District, Imperial Palace. The sky-devouring beast on Yihao's shoulder gloated. "You don't want such a beauty sent to your door. I really don't know what you're thinking." Yihao said calmly, "You don't understand. This was because he was missing someone in his heart, someone he might never be able to come into contact with again. Speaking of which, do you know the identity of that little girl?" The Sky Devourer's gossipy heart rose again. Yihao shook his head and said, "No, I only know a little about it. I don't know the details." "Are you sure you want to protect her? I didn't expect it to be such a hot potato back then. Now that I've made a promise to the Green Mountain Emperor, I have to fulfill it. Moreover, it's an old man's last wish." The sky-devouring beast fell into deep thought. Then it asked, "That's not right. You and Shu's spiritual power was shared equally between the 2 of us. Why are you still in the 8th level of the Spirit Emperor realm?" Yihao smiled faintly. "Because it's not time yet." Then, the man and the beast left the palace and went straight to Yuan House. He had promised Zhongqing and the others that they would meet at Yuan House after they came out from the place of ancestral worship. After Yihao entered the Yuan mansion, he found that it was very quiet. There was almost no one there. After searching for a long time, he finally found Zhongqing in the main hall of the mansion. "What's wrong? Why are there only a few people here? Where are the others?" Yihao asked Zhongqing as he walked into the main hall. Hearing this familiar voice, Zhongqing was very excited. He quickly walked to Yihao and said, "Young Emperor, you're finally back." "What's wrong?" Yihao had a bad feeling. He asked, "Where are Wenyong and Du Xing? Why don't I see them?" So Zhongqing told Yihao what had happened in the Tianyuan Empire and where Wu Wenyong and the others had gone. Yihao's face was livid. He clenched his hands behind his back and said angrily, "What do you will an empire? I didn't make trouble for you, but you came to make trouble for me. I just made an agreement with Princess Ling. I didn't expect to trouble her so soon. Young Emperor, what should we do now?" Zhang Qing looked at Yi Hao and asked. Yi Hao said calmly, "You stay here. I'll go back by myself." "Young Emperor, you can't. I'll bring some people to escort you back." "No." Yi Hao quickly thought for a moment before he said, "You have an even more important mission here. Princess Ling will return from the ancestral worship grounds in 13 days. When that time comes, go and inform Princess Ling of the situation. She will know what to do." "Yes." Zhang Qing took the order. When he raised his head, he found that Yi Hao had disappeared. Yi Hao, who was standing outside the Yuan mansion, took a deep breath and asked, "Tunshin, can you take back your miniature world at any time and place?" Tunshin said lazily, "That's right," because, before he could finish, Yi Hao interrupted him. "Okay, I got it. I'll go as fast as I can." "Wait, is there anything else? I won't help you this time. You should know that I have many enemies. I won't help easily. Otherwise, I'll cause a lot of trouble." Yi Hao smiled faintly. "A mere 5th-rank empire doesn't need you. Just stay here." With that, a black figure rushed out of the falling district, out of the Qingshan Imperial City, and towards the Tianyuan Empire. Tianyuan Empire, Tianyuan New City. In the palace, Hu Sanyang was in a mess. She felt that the Tianyuan Empire couldn't wait for Yi Hao to return. Before the Yuan Empire sealed off the Tianyuan Empire, Hu Sanyang had already sent a message to Yi Hao. Unfortunately, there was no reply. Later, she sent people to sneak into the Qingshan Empire. However, without exception, they were all captured and executed by the Yuan Empire. The Yuan Empire was indeed a 5th-rank empire. They were far more powerful than the Tianyuan Empire. It was said that not only were there high-level spiritual emperors, there were also spiritual emperors. The leader was the Lin family of Yueluan. "Sanyang, give me a definite answer. What should we do?" "That's right. We listened to you and dragged it out. However, now that the entire empire has been sealed off by the Yuan Empire, resources can't enter. Everyone is in a state of panic. What should we do?" "That's right. Moreover, the Yuan Empire has a spiritual emperor. We can't win against them. Why don't we surrender now? Otherwise, the entire empire will be destroyed." Everyone in the palace kept questioning Sanyang. It was as if they were blaming her. Sanyang suddenly missed Yi Hao. If Yi Hao was here, this wouldn't have happened. "Stop arguing." Yi was angry. Everyone rarely saw her angry. They knew that this powerful woman was not to be trifled with, so they kept quiet. Yi stood in the palace and laughed coldly. "Don't be naive. Do you think that everything will be fine if you surrender? That's nonsense. The reason why the Yuan Empire didn't attack us immediately, but slowly pushed forward, is to attack our psychological defenses. They want to see us panic and fight among ourselves. They want to see us make a fool of ourselves. Don't you understand?" Chapter 1525. Everyone lowered their heads and didn't speak. Yi paused, then continued. "Didn't you read the daily battle reports? Every time they surround a city, they slaughter it. They don't leave anyone alive. They're not human, they're beasts. They like to see the despair in the eyes of those who are about to die, because it gives them a great sense of accomplishment. Surrendering will only make you die faster. It will make you die without dignity or value." "Then what do you think we should do?" asked a powerful spirit emperor cultivator. Yi calmed her anger and looked at Sanyang. Sanyang took a deep breath and said calmly, "Let me ask you, what do we cultivate for? Money, status, reputation. In order to be admired and respected by others. Of course it's for beauties. With strength, there will be no shortage of women around you." Everyone was talking at once, and their answers were all different. "Wrong, all wrong." Sanyang pointed to her chest and laughed. "We cultivate for ourselves, for our families, for the people around us, and for the responsibility in our hearts. Now that the enemy is right in front of us, can we watch our families, The people we're determined to protect fall one by one under the enemy's butcher's knife. When we watch the enemy slaughter our own people, won't we feel bad? Won't we feel guilty? Can we bow and bend our knees to the enemy just to prolong our feeble existence? Our families are behind us. Even if the country is slaughtered, it must be us who die in front and our families who die behind us. Can we shrink back? No, no, no. Everyone in the hall was stirred up by Hu Sanyang's impassioned words. They waved their arms and refused to surrender. Pass down the order. All Spirit Emperor cultivators will gather at the South Gate tomorrow at noon. Resist the enemy outside the city and swear to defend Tianyuan to the death. Yes. After receiving the order, everyone left, leaving Zhou Dong and the others standing in the hall. Feng Shui held the snow wind blade and said, "Do you think Xiao Di can make it back in time?" Thousand Pill Ancestor took a deep breath and smiled. Whether Xiao Di can make it back or not, we have to prepare for the worst. That's right, Zhou Dong continued. Xiao Di gave us Tianyuan before he left, which shows his trust in us. If we can't give him a complete Tianyuan, then at least we can't let it die. My strength may not be high, but I know that this city is something that I must protect with my life. So, if he wants to massacre the city, he will have to ask the two whips in my hands first. Hu Yinzhuo laughed mischievously. All right, don't be so sad. I believe the Tianyuan Empire will be safe this time. In Shin's still wearing a red dress, but she had a lot more. In the corridors of the palace, you... TTS. Yi was slightly stunned. She said coldly, "Han Yin, what do you mean by that? Are you suspecting that I'm in cahoots with the Yueluan Empire?" Han Yin hurriedly shook his head and said, "That's not what I meant. I just feel that there's a huge grudge between you and the Yueluan Empire. Every time I talk about them, I feel like I'm gnashing my teeth. That doesn't prove that it's related to me. Han Yin, don't talk nonsense before you have evidence." After saying this, Yi left directly. Han Yin looked at Yi's back and muttered, "Then I don't understand why the Yuan Empire's Lin family is looking for you. Is it because of your beauty? I don't believe that." There was a huge military camp 15 kilometers away from Tianyuan New City. There was a huge military flag on the military camp. There was a waning moon on the flag. This was the main camp of the Yueluan Empire's troops. There was a huge golden military tent in the center of the camp. The commanders and the higher-ups of the troops were sitting in the tent. At this moment, there were some disagreements about the plan of the expedition. There was a huge sand table in the tent. The topography of the entire Tianyuan Empire and the locations of the cities were clearly marked on the sand table. On the left side of the sand table, there was a fat general. He pointed at Tianyuan New City in the center of the sand table and said, "Tianyuan New City is right in front of us. It's not far away. It can't run away. There's no need to attack first. We'll just follow our plan and slowly nibble away at it." "General Lenny, I don't think so." A skinny middle-aged man stood up on the right side of the sand table. He said loudly, "The Yuan Empire is a 5th-grade empire. The Tianyuan Empire is only a 4th-grade empire. We could have destroyed it easily. It's just that we listened to your Lin family suggestion and slowly nibbled away at it. We're already at our doorstep. I don't think it's necessary to nibble away at it." Bang. "You Xiaoqiu, what do you mean by that?" "That's right. Are you complaining about our Lin family's plan? Or do you think what we've done before is unnecessary?" As soon as he finished speaking, some people behind Lin smashed the flagon on the ground. They pointed at Yu Xiaoqiu and questioned him loudly. Lin smiled. He rubbed his big belly and said, "General Yu, you should think carefully before you speak. That's the way it is." Yu Xiaoqiu was not afraid of the Lin family's power at all. He said, "To put it nicely, it's called taking things slowly. To put it bluntly, you're just bored to death." "Yu Xiaoqiu." Lin glared at him and slammed the sand table heavily. "General, you're the commander of this expedition. What do you think?" A lazy voice came from behind Lin. A young man with white eyebrows and beard yawned as he looked at the middle-aged man sitting on the main seat who had not spoken. The middle-aged man on the main seat looked a little gloomy. He felt the oppressive atmosphere in the military tent and thought of the advice the Yuan emperor had given him before the expedition. Lin, he did not argue with Yu Shaoqiu. Instead, he looked at the general on the main seat with a smile and asked, "General, what do you think?" Yu Shaoqiu also looked at the man, but did not speak. The middle-aged man collected his thoughts and rested his chin on his hands. He said calmly, "We'll do as General Lin he says." Bang! Yu Shaoqiu kicked the table behind him and scolded, "Stupid, stupid and incompetent, timid, delaying the battle, stupid as pigs and dogs." The man with white eyebrows and beard said impatiently, "Wang Jian, is this how you teach your subordinates? Colon. Chapter 1526. The middle-aged man named Wang Jian, who was sitting on the main seat, looked at the furious Yu Shaoqiu and said lightly, "Remove him from the military post, lock him up in the military tent, and don't let him out without my order." Yes. Immediately, 2 soldiers rushed out from the left and right and escorted Yu Shaoqiu out slowly. Before Yu Shaoqiu left, he cursed, "Wang Jian, are you crazy? You are the commander-in-chief of the 3 armies. How can you be so indecisive?" "Wang Jian, Brother Lin, Yu Shaoqiu's temper is too impulsive. Please forgive him for his disrespectful words. I will deal with this kind of thing seriously, you can rest assured." The young man with white eyebrows smiled. With the general's words, I, Lin Sheng, am relieved. Since the policy has been decided, I will not disturb the general. Lin Sheng got up, followed by Lin Yi and the others. The Lin family coldly glanced at the other people in the military tent and slowly left. When they left, the other generals who were glanced at stood up with a flattering face and respectfully sent the Lin family out of the military tent. Wang Jian looked at the empty tent with a trace of sadness in his eyes. When the sky was about to turn dark, Wang Jian calmly returned to his tent with a jar of wine. As soon as he opened the tent curtain, a powerful arm directly swept over. Wang Jian did not look at it. His right hand gently pushed, and the figure who wanted to sneak attack him stumbled and hit the tea table in the middle of the tent. Wang Jian ordered the guards in the tent, "Go, watch from the outside." Yes. Then, only Wang Jian and Yu Shaoqiu, who was dismissed by Wang Jian, were left in the tent. Wang Jian came to the opposite of Yu Shaoqiu and sat down. He took out 2 empty bowls, poured himself a bowl, and drank it. He quietly recalled the piercing taste of the strong liquor, and a smile appeared on his calm face. Smile? You can still smile like this. The more Yu Shaoqiu thought about it, the angrier he became. He wanted to smash the jar of wine directly on the head of the person in front of him, but thinking that this person was his master, he suppressed the anger in his heart. Smile? Why can't I smile? Wang Jian said with a self-deprecating tone. I have been in the army for 20 years, and I have always been proud of protecting the royal family. But at this moment, I feel a little ashamed. Yu Shaoqiu also understood his master's experience, so he didn't say anything. Wang Jian threw away his pen and joined the army when he was 17 years old. From a small foot soldier, step by step, he became a great general today. And the reason he joined the army was because he was dissatisfied with the big clans bullying the royal family. He believed that the royal family should rule all the other clans and be high above. They didn't need to look at other people's faces or bow and bend their knees. However, the previous emperor had passed away early, leaving behind only a 5-year-old child to guard the estate. The lord was weak and the ministers were strong. Naturally, the child would be controlled by the major families. Wang Jian couldn't bear to see such a scene, so he decided to join the army. From there, he ascended to the imperial court and removed the ministers to replace the lord. Unfortunately, man proposes, God disposes. The little emperor, who had grown up under the control of the major families, was now 25 years old, but his heart was still as timid as a child. He had never grown up. The days when the various clans were at war with each other gradually turned into the Lin clan's dominance. It wouldn't be long before the imperial family's surname became Lin. Wang Jian only felt that his more than 20 years of hard work had gone down the drain, so at the moment he was somewhat self-deprecating. This Lin clan is really getting more and more presumptuous. They obviously don't understand military affairs, but they insist on giving orders. Master, can you bear it? Yu Xiaoqiu picked up the wine jar and directly drank a big mouthful. I can't bear it, but so what? His Majesty said before leaving that I will make the decision for the small things, and Lin Sheng will make the decision for the big things. Isn't it obvious that the Lin clan will control the situation? If so, why do we need to go to war with them? His Majesty is really too old, but he still doesn't know anything. Huh! Wang Jian slapped Yu Xiaoqiu's face heavily. His eyes were wide open and his fists were clenched. Yu Xiaoqiu was not afraid. He growled, Master, that is a hopeless case. You have already wasted 20 years on him. Don't tell me you want to waste the rest of your life. With your ability, with your strength, it would be better to go to any empire than to be bullied here. Yu Xiaoqiu, shut up. Wang Jian, I want you to recognize the reality so that you can make early plans. You unfilial disciple. After saying that, the two of them swung their arms and started fighting in the tent. This fight was different from other fights. It was a physical fight without using spiritual power. Clang, clang. The sound of things shattering could be heard in the tent. At the same time, in Yuan Imperial City, in an inconspicuous inn, a middle-aged man in black with two long swords found a corner and sat down. He carefully tasted the food and wine on the table. Not long after, a young man in blue with a folding fan in his hand walked in. He looked around and then sat down beside the man in black. How is it? The man in black threw 2 peanuts into his mouth and asked. The young man took a sip of wine and took a deep breath. Then he said, I have the location of the palace and the distribution map. When the time comes, we will sneak into the palace and force the Yuan Empire to submit. We will definitely be able to force the Yuan Empire to retreat. How do we force the Yuan Emperor to submit? Not to mention that he has so many guard around him. Even if we can find a chance, with the Yuan Emperor's strength, will it work? The man in black was confused. The young man chuckled and said, Brother Du, you worry too much. I have already heard that the Yuan Emperor will hold a banquet in the palace in 2 days. During the banquet, the security will definitely be tight. But what about after the banquet, especially when it is late at night? You mean we can do it then? That's right. We have so many people. Even if the Yuan Emperor is powerful, so what? Okay, then we will do as you say. The two of them discussed the details for a while and then left. They were Wu Wenyong and Du Xing, who had hurried from Qingshan Imperial City to Yuelun Imperial City. After they arrived, they each led 20 people to settle down in different places. Then, Wu Wenyong went out to gather information. Finally, he found a chance. 2 days later, they would sneak into the palace and force the Yuelun Emperor to retreat. On the border of the Qingshan Empire stood a man in black with a tired expression. He looked at the few remaining spirit coins in his interspatial ring and smiled bitterly. In order to save time, he kept looking for cities and then used the teleportation formations in the cities to hurry. Finally, he arrived at the border of the Qingshan Empire before daybreak. He looked at the boundary stone beside him. If he took a step, he would enter the territory of the Tianyuan Empire. Chapter 1527. The black-clothed man coldly looked at the figures lurking in the darkness, and a cold smile appeared on his lips. Without hesitation, he took a step forward and stepped into the territory of the Tianyuan Empire. Whoosh! Just as Yihao took a step forward, and before his other foot could follow, many people appeared around him. These people all held spears in their hands and wore armor with crescent moons painted on them. The crowd parted and made a path. A young general with a sword at his waist and riding a fiery red horse appeared arrogantly. Who are you? Do you know that the Tianyuan Empire has been sealed off by the Yuelun Empire? Of course I know, the man in black replied indifferently. You know, the young general was a little surprised. He smiled and said, How dare you barge in even though you know? You're courting death. The man in black looked up. His red eyes were unusually cold. He said indifferently, Do I need your permission to go home? Go home. The young general was stunned. He then laughed and said, "Oh, so you're a commoner of the Tianyuan Empire. But do you know that you don't have a home anymore?" Haha. The man in black looked cold. "How about this? Since you're homeless, as long as you're willing to kneel down and bark like a dog, I'll take you in, you homeless dog. Hurry up. Our Master Lin has already said it. What are you waiting for?" "That's right. The Tianyuan Empire was destroyed long ago. Our Master Lin is being merciful. Kid, you won't get another chance like this. Be sensible." The surrounding soldiers mocked him without restraint. The man in black smiled coldly and asked, "You want me to kneel? Do you know who I am?" The young general said indifferently, "I don't care who you are. Don't piss me off. Otherwise, you'll die a horrible death." The man in black leaned down slightly. The crowd's mocking laughter grew louder. Unexpectedly, the man in black bounced up from the ground in the next second. With a punch, the young general and his horse flew into the distance. The surrounding people were stunned. They thought that the man in black was frightened by them and wanted to kneel down and beg for mercy. Who knew that he was accumulating strength and sent their leader flying with a punch? "You brat, refusing a toast only to drink a forfeit." Sure enough, the people of the Tianyuan Empire are all ungrateful commoners. Go to hell, you lowly commoner. How dare you attack young Master Lin? You're dead meat. Everyone rushed forward with spears in their hands. The black-clothed man didn't care at all and directly threw the little dog that had been sleeping soundly in his arms out. Just as the little dog was about to die under the spear, it suddenly opened its mouth and sucked in. Everyone, including their weapons, was sucked into the little dog's stomach. After the surroundings returned to normal, the little dog let out a satisfied burp. It came to the black-clothed man's shoulder and hatefully said, "Next time, before you let me eat, can you at least say hello to me? I was just dreaming. All right, go to sleep." The man in black stuffed the little dog into his arms and looked at the figure that had been fleeing not far away. His figure moved slightly, and in the next second, he appeared directly in front of that figure. After flying out with the horse and landing on the ground, the young general was just about to come over to seek revenge when he saw his men being swallowed by a monster. A chill slowly rose from the soles of his feet, and he began to run for his life. Unexpectedly, the ordinary-looking man in black appeared in front of him in an instant. The young general knew that he had kicked an iron plate this time, and very skillfully knelt down and said, "Big brother, I was wrong. I was blind to not recognize Mount Tai. Please forgive me." The black-clothed man looked at him curiously and said, "You're quite good at kneeling, aren't you?" The young general kowtowed and begged, "Big brother, I know I was wrong. I'll kowtow to you. I'll bark like a dog. Woof, woof, woof." "You're from the Lin family of Full Moon Kingdom?" After hearing these words, a glimmer of hope ignited in the young general's heart. A glimmer of hope that he could live on. "Yes, big brother, I'm from the Lin family. You can't kill me, or the Lin family of Full Moon Kingdom won't let you go." The black-clothed man sneered and said, "Do you know who I am?" "Who?" The young general didn't dare to be careless this time. He hurriedly asked, "I am Yi Hao of Tianyuan." Plop! As soon as he finished speaking, the young general slowly fell down with a small wound on his forehead. His closed eyes were filled with confusion. Yi Hao took back his flying sword and said, "I've killed many Lin family members of Full Moon Kingdom. What's one more?" Then, Yi Hao turned into a streak of light and headed straight for Tianyuan New City. The next day, Hu Sanyang, who had changed into a military uniform, stood on the city wall and looked into the distance, lost in thought. That day, he left through this gate. That day, she stood at the city gate and saw him off from afar. "Hey, Sanyang, why are you here so early?" In Xin was still dressed in red today. She came to Sanyang's side and asked. "Oh." Sanyang came back to her senses and answered, "I have nothing to do, so I thought I'd come early and see where we can set up camp. As far as I know, the Full Moon Empire's main camp is on a piece of flat land 30 miles away from the city gate. If we want to set up camp outside the city, I suggest that we set up camp on a mountain too, 5 miles away." Yi, who was dressed in white, had also arrived on the city wall. "Okay, it's not far from Tianyuan New City and the enemy's main camp. Let's do it. San Yang agreed. I don't have any objections. We'll do as you say. Xin also agreed. Gradually, more and more people came to the city wall. When the wall was full, many people stood at the city gate. Noon had arrived. Out of the city, San Yang waved her hand and led everyone out of the city. They went straight to a mountain too, 5 miles away. Before leaving, she gave 5 tokens to Yueying. Yueying looked at the departing figures of the soldiers and murmured, "Don't worry, I will protect the people of Tianyuan New City." When it was close to evening, the cultivators of Tianyuan New City finally set up camp on the mountain. Guards, patrols, tents, everything was carried out in an orderly manner. There were a total of 13 tents on the mountain. Other than the largest one for meetings, one for storage, and one for the 3 female cultivators, there were only 10 tents left. Each tent could hold 100 spirit emperors, so in total, there were 1,000 spirit emperors. Of course, although these cultivators were all spirit emperors, there were still some differences. Most of them were mid-level spirit emperors. There were only 200 or 300 high-level spirit emperors and less than 10 peak spirit emperors. At night, everyone went to sleep. Only San Yang and Yi were still in the tent. Chapter 1528. San Yang looked at the giant sand table in front of her, her eyes filled with worry. After a period of development, the Tianyuan Empire was indeed much stronger than before. The 1,000 spirit emperors were the best proof. However, this was still not enough to compete with the Yuan Empire, which was a rank 5 empire, because they did not have top-level combat power. According to the intelligence, there were 2 spirit emperors in the Yuan Empire's army. On the other hand, they did not have one. Perhaps the outcome of this war had been decided from the beginning. However, San Yang was unwilling to admit defeat so easily. Therefore, she chose to stay outside the city and defend the Tianyuan Empire with her life. When do you think the young emperor will return? Yi looked at the flickering light and suddenly asked. San Yang collected her thoughts and murmured, "I don't know when a young emperor will return, but I know that he will. We will not lose this war." That's right. The young emperor and the Green Mountain are united by marriage. When he returns, he'll be accompanied by thousands of troops. We won't lose. Yi regained a lot of confidence and smiled. San Yang shook her head slightly. In her heart, even if the young emperor did not return with thousands of troops, they would still win. The headquarters of the Yuan Empire. In the largest military tent, everyone gathered once again because of 2 matters. General Wang Jian sat in the main seat. On his right sat Lin Yi and the Lin family. On his left sat Yu Shaoqiu and the other generals. Before the meeting began, Lin Yi looked at Yu Shaoqiu's swollen face and laughed. "Yu Shaoqiu, what happened to you? How did you end up like this?" Yu Shaoqiu glared at Lin Yi and then looked at Wang Jian with resentment. Wang Jian calmly rubbed his fist. Lin Yi suddenly understood and laughed. "I see. I was wondering why you could come out. General, thank you." Then, Lin Yi cupped his hands at Wang Jian. Wang Jian waved his hand and said in a deep voice, "Let's get down to business. I received 2 pieces of news. First, 1,000 cultivators of Tianyuan City have left the city and set up camp on a mountain 5 miles away from the city. They said they want to fight us head-on. What do you think?" "That's pretty good," Lin Yi said before Yu Shaoqiu could. "Ever since we entered the Tianyuan Empire, it has been a one-sided massacre. It's not interesting at all. Since these lowlifes want to fight us head-on, we'll play with them." That's right, General Lin." The group of generals behind Lin Yi echoed. "I don't think so." Even though Yu Shaoqiu's face was swollen, he still slammed the table and stood up to voice his opinion. "I think that since the people of New Tianyuan City dared to leave the city, they must have something to rely on. We should take advantage of the fact that they haven't gained a firm foothold and launch a surprise attack on their camp." "Night raid?" Lin Yi sneered. "Yu Shaoqiu, is this necessary? They're just a bunch of lowly commoners." "Of course it's necessary. Otherwise, why would they dare to come out of the city and confront us directly? Are you looking for trouble?" Why do you like to go against me so much? Yu Xiaoqiu was enraged and said, I'm just stating facts. Lin Yi clutched his big belly and walked to the middle of the crowd and said, You're stating facts, right? Well, let's let everyone be the judge. Lin Yi pointed to the other generals in the hall and sternly asked, I don't think it's necessary, but Yu Xiaoqiu thinks it's necessary to launch a night raid. What do you think? Of course it's not necessary. Yu Xiaoqiu, don't make a fuss over nothing. The Lin family took the lead to agree. The others were silent. Speak. Lin Yi suddenly became angry and kicked the tea table in front of him. General Lin Yi is right. It's not necessary. Yes, we'll listen to General Lin. They're just lowly commoners. It's not worth making a fuss over nothing. General Yu, you're overthinking. Yu Xiaoqiu looked at the flattering faces of the people in the tent, and the anger in his heart soared to the sky. Lin Yi looked at Wang Jian with a smile. Wang Jian still looked calm and said, Then we'll listen to General Lin Yi and play with them. Haha, that's the best. Lin Yi laughed out loud and sat back on his seat while clutching his belly. Yu Xiaoqiu held back his anger and also returned to his seat. Wang Jian continued, Since the first thing has been solved, let's talk about the second thing. Last night, a young man in black suddenly broke into our blockade line from the Green Mountain Empire. His target was very clear. He went straight to Tianyuan New City. It only took him a day to advance dozens of miles. And wherever he went, the soldiers of the Yuan Empire were all killed. He didn't come with good intentions, and his methods were ruthless. What do you think? Lin Yi was the first to speak. He asked, General, have you found out the identity of this person? We only know that this person appeared at the border between the Green Mountain Empire and Tianyuan. We don't know anything about his identity. After all, the people who have seen him in the Yuan Empire are all dead. Wang Jian's face was still calm. General Lin Yi, I heard that some of the younger generation of the Lin family died at the hands of this person. What? Are you not going to take revenge? After all, the Lin family of the Yuan Empire is famous for seeking revenge for the smallest grievance. If you let this person advance unscrupulously, where will the Lin family put its face? Yu Xiaoqiu suddenly said indifferently. Lin Yi wasn't angry. Instead, he looked at him with a smile. Then, he smiled sinisterly and said, General, I think this person's identity is not simple. And wherever he went, our soldiers were all killed. I think he's not weak. Why don't we let General Yu investigate this person? After all, General Yu is a half-step spirit monarch. Yu Xiaoqiu was furious. He crushed the wine cup in his hand. Lin Yi no longer looked at him. Instead, he looked at Wang Jian and said, General, what do you think? Okay. Wang Jian put his chin on his hands and said calmly, We'll do as General Lin Yi says. Haha, that's great. Lin Yi laughed heartily and said, If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave. Then, Lin Yi left with the Lin family with his head held high. The generals on the left also followed closely behind and left the tent. However, before they left, Yu Xiaoqiu heard every single word of their inappropriate remarks. Sigh. It seems that the general's power is gone. Not the general, but His Majesty. His Majesty fears the Lin family like a tiger. What can we, the officials, do? Forget it. Let's go find the Lin family and find a way out for ourselves. I really regret boarding this broken ship. After they left, Yu Xiaoqiu slapped Wang Jian's desk and shouted angrily, Wang Jian, did you hear that? They said that your ship is a broken ship. They regret it and want to suck up to the Lin family. Chapter 1529. Wang Jian gently pushed his hand away, took out a book from the desk, and read it carefully. Yu Xiaoqiu saw that Wang Jian was indifferent, so he grabbed the book and said angrily, You can see the ambition of the Lin family from this incident. They want to target me first, then you, and finally that high and mighty guy who only cares about pleasure. I heard it, I know. It's a broken boat, but so what? Wang Jian took back the book and continued reading. Are you willing to accept this? 20 years of business. Man proposes, God disposes. Let's do our best and leave it to fate. Wang Jian turned a page and continued reading. Yu Xiaoqiu was disappointed, and was about to leave. Wang Jian's ears moved slightly, and he said in a low voice, "Wait, come back." Yu Xiaoqiu said angrily, "What? I have to go back and pack up and check out that young man's background." Wang Jian sensed carefully, and after confirming that the eavesdropper had left, he put down the book and walked to Yu Xiaoqiu. "Check out? I'm afraid you're going to die." "What do you mean?" Yu Xiaoqiu was confused. "He's just a young man. How powerful can he be? Can he beat me, a half-step spirit monarch?" Wang Jian put his hands behind his back and murmured, "Qingshan, Sky Street Conference, Yi Sangao." Yu Xiaoqiu was surprised and laughed. "Yi Sangao, the one who severely injured the Lin family and won the championship? That man in black is him? Who else could it be?" Wang Jian turned around and looked at him seriously. "But do you know his true identity?" "True identity? He is the king of the Tianyuan Empire, Yi Hao." "Hiss!" Yu Xiaoqiu gasped. He didn't expect that Yi Hao was the king of the Tianyuan Empire. But now he understood why the messenger of the empire didn't see Yi Hao. "Isn't that great? If we catch him, the entire Tianyuan Empire will surrender without a fight." "Surrender without a fight? Are you crazy?" Wang Jian looked helplessly at his brave but brainless disciple. "Did you forget Yi Sangyao's record in the Sky Street Conference? He crippled Qin Gao, a half-step spirit monarch. And you think you can catch him? Moreover, he went to the ancestor-worshipping meeting on Green Mountain. His cultivation state must have improved a lot." Yu Xiaoqiu's face darkened as he said, "So the Lin family already knew this person's identity and wanted me to die." Wang Jian sighed. "Do you think I don't know anything? Actually, I know everything, but so what if I know?" "You're right. This time, the Lin family's target is you. Next time, it will be me, and the time after that will be." Wang Jian didn't feel too sad. He took off his interspatial ring and handed it to Yu Xiaoqiu. "This is? Take it. It will be useful." Wang Jian said seriously, "Remember my words. Don't look back. Don't look for Yi Hao. Leave Tianyuan and Yueluan. Go as far as you can." "Then what about you, master?" Yu Xiaoqiu held the interspatial ring and felt that it was very heavy. "Me? I have my own destiny. Don't worry." Wang Jian waved his hand and said tiredly, "Go. Don't take anything. Just leave." Yu Xiaoqiu's eyes were wet. He knelt down and kowtowed to Wang Jian 3 times. Then, he left the military camp and disappeared. Wang Jian took a deep breath and sighed. 20 years, it's still useless. Lin family's military camp. Lin Yi stood beside Lin Sheng and said respectfully, "Second uncle, I'm worried that Yu Xiaoqiu won't go to check on Yi Hao. He might have other plans." "Otherwise," Yu Lin Sheng put down the teacup in his hand and said, "I know what you mean. Since I'm bored here, I might as well go out and meet the winner of the Heavenly Street meeting." "Okay," Lin Yi said happily. "Second uncle, don't worry. Leave it to me. With me here, Wang Jian won't be able to do anything." Lin Sheng responded indifferently and disappeared from where he stood. Lin Yi looked at the big tent where he was the only one left and muttered to himself, "Worthy of being a third-order spirit emperor. Ah, amazing. When can I reach this level of cultivation?" 30 miles away from Tianyuan City, there was a small village. A man in black stood beside the well in the small village. The man looked at the corpses on the ground and felt sad. "Master, you have 5,000 mission tokens now. Do you want to use them?" Yi Hao withdrew his sad thoughts and entered the store. He knew that sadness was useless. The most useful thing to do now was to improve his strength, avenge the dead, and protect the living. Since the system was upgraded, Yi Hao had completed many side missions. Therefore, he had accumulated 5,000 mission tokens. Therefore, he wanted to look around and see if there was anything suitable. After all, the war was imminent. He needed to be prepared. Suddenly, he saw a fiery red bead in the store. He clicked on it and took a closer look. Wrath of the 9 heavens. The bead contained a strong spiritual power. If it was thrown out at a critical moment, the spiritual power would directly annihilate people below 4th order spirit monarch. Oh my god, this is good stuff. For the current Yi Hao, he really needed some means to protect himself. This thing was just right. Therefore, he looked at the price. It cost 3,000 mission tokens. This price is too expensive. Forget it. I'll buy it in case I need it. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for using 3,000 mission tokens to buy one Fury of the Ninth Heaven. After this purchase, the host only has 2,000 mission tokens left. Then, a fiery red bead appeared in Yi Hao's hand. Just holding it made him feel that it was full of spiritual power. Yi Hao put away the Fury of the Ninth Heaven and sat down cross-legged. He continued to draw on the power of the stars. Now he could do 2 big circulations a day. Not long after, Yi Hao's skin suddenly turned silver white. The tension in Yi Hao's arms suddenly jumped out. It looked at Yi Hao's silver white skin and exclaimed, "No way, this kid hasn't cultivated for long. Why do I feel that the first chapter of the transformation of stars and moon is close to perfection?" That's right, I know. The tension revealed a relieved expression and murmured, "I was wondering where the spiritual power from Yuan Shu went." It turns out that it was used to draw on the power of the stars. It seems that he wants to cover his body with the power of the stars. Interesting. Time passed slowly. Gradually, the sky began to turn bright. Yi Hao cultivated for the whole night. The tension lay down beside Yi Hao and slept for the whole night. When dawn broke, a slight sound came from Yi Hao's body. Yi Hao opened his eyes. The corner of his mouth held a smile. He gently exhaled and said, "There is still a trace of the spiritual power stolen from Yuan Shu. I might as well use it to break through. It seems that the effect is quite good." Chapter 1530. Yi Hao rested in the village for a night. Not only did he fully comprehend the first chapter of the moon and stars transformation, but he also broke through to the 9th level Spirit Emperor. He was only 1 step away from becoming a Spirit Emperor. Yi Hao reached out and placed the sleeping Tunshin into his arms. Just as he was about to leave, the Tunshin suddenly poked out from Yi Hao's arms. "Someone's here." Yi Hao smiled and said, "I know, it's just a half-step Spirit Emperor. Don't worry." "No." The Tunshin looked very serious and said, "There's another guy behind the half-step Spirit Emperor." "Oh." Yi Hao was a little surprised and asked, "What's his cultivation?" "3rd level Spirit Emperor." "Hiss." Yi Hao sucked in a breath of cold air and laughed. "The Full Moon Empire is really willing to spend a lot of money to deal with me. They actually invited a 3rd level Spirit Emperor. Do you need me to make a move?" The Tunshin knew that Yi Hao's cultivation was low and couldn't defeat a 3rd level Spirit Emperor. "No, you promised me 3 things. I can't waste one of them here. Stay here obediently." "Okay, then you're on your own." After that, the Tunshin directly left Yi Hao's arms and ran to a nearby roof. Yi Hao looked indifferently in front of him, and a thin figure slowly appeared. The thin figure came to Yi Hao and asked, "You're the champion of the Heavenly Street Conference, Yi Hao, and also the Tianyuan Empire's Junwan." Yi Hao was a little surprised and said, "It seems that there are still smart people in the Full Moon Empire. What's your name?" The thin figure stared at Yi Hao and said word by word, "I'm Yu Xiaoqiu." "That's right. This person was Yu Xiaoqiu who left the Full Moon Empire's camp. Originally, he was going to leave after leaving the camp, but he changed his mind and didn't want to leave his master alone in this dangerous place. So, he followed the information and found Yi Hao." "Yu Xiaoqiu? General Yueluan's disciple?" Before Yi Hao left the Qingshan Imperial City, he had obtained some information from Zhang Qing, so he knew a little about the important figures in the Yueluan Empire. "Yes, Wang Jian is my master." Yu Xiaoqiu did not avoid the topic. "So you're here to kill me?" Yi Hao looked at him with amusement and said, "But I'm curious. You know that I'm Yi Sangao, which means that you know that a half-step spirit monarch is nothing in front of me. If that's the case, why are you asking for trouble?" Yu Xiaoqiu hesitated for a long time. When he saw Yi Hao's red eyes, he finally made up his mind. He bent his legs and knelt on the ground. He said in a low voice, "Your Majesty, you've misunderstood. Yu Xiaoqiu is here to surrender to you." Yi Hao was slightly taken aback. Then, he looked at the white figure behind Yu Xiaoqiu and asked, "Surrender? Does the person behind you know that you're here to surrender?" Yu Xiaoqiu was confused. He suddenly turned around and saw a young man with white eyebrows and beard standing behind him. It seemed that he had been here for a long time. Lin Sheng, why are you here? Lin Sheng smiled without saying a word and walked closer slowly. Yu Xiaoqiu stood up from the ground and said with relief, "It must be Lin Yi who asked you to follow me. I knew that fatty was up to no good." Lin Sheng smiled faintly and said, "Though I don't like that damn fatty either, what he said is right. Are you going to take Wang Jian's order to surrender to the champion of the Green Mountain meeting?" Yu Xiaoqiu said angrily, "Lin Sheng, don't be so sarcastic. This is my own decision. It has nothing to do with my master." "Oh, is that so?" Lin Sheng stared at Yu Xiaoqiu's hand and pointed at a space ring. "I remember that you didn't have this ring before. This seems to be Wang Jian's. What else do you have to say?" Yu Xiaoqiu didn't know what to say. This ring was indeed not his, but his master's. It was meant to give him more means to protect himself, but now it became an effective evidence for the Lin family to slander his master. "You don't have to say anything. When the time comes, we'll bring your corpse back with the ring as evidence. This time, Wang Jian will fall." Lin Sheng was in a good mood and said a few more words. Wang Jian had always been a big problem for the Lin family. However, Wang Jian had lived a clean life with almost no stains, so the Lin family didn't know how to bring him down. Now with the ring in Yu Xiaoqiu's hand, they could charge Wang Jian with treason for betraying his master. In this way, the high and mighty little emperor would really be alone. Yu Xiaoqiu naturally knew what Lin Sheng was thinking. He said angrily, "Lin Sheng, stop dreaming. I won't go back with you even if I die." "It's not up to you." Lin Sheng snorted and took a step forward. That step didn't seem like a normal step. He came directly in front of Yu Xiaoqiu and reached out with his palm. Just as his palm was about to touch Yu Xiaoqiu's chest, a huge force pulled Yu Xiaoqiu back, and Lin Sheng's palm missed. Yi Hao pulled Yu Xiaoqiu behind him and looked at Lin Sheng. "Is everyone in the Lin family so arrogant? Yu Xiaoqiu came to surrender to me, so he's already my man. You have to look at the master before beating a dog, not to mention killing a person." "You?" Lin Sheng looked at Yi Hao with disdain and said disdainfully, "A half-step spirit monarch and a 9th-level spirit emperor. I'm giving you a handicap of 1 hand, and you can't even beat me. You want to be respected? Dream on. TSK, TSK. Do you know whose territory you're talking to?" Yi Hao's voice deepened, and a fiery red long sword appeared in his hand. His eyes narrowed, and a raging battle intent gushed out. Imperial City of Green Mountain, Royal Palace. A middle-aged man with a hurried expression was led by a golden armored guard to the palace's meeting hall. A young woman in a golden dress sat on the main seat of the hall, and the patriarchs of the 6 great clans stood on either side of her. On her left were Qin Yunji, Huangfu Yunji, and Hao Gui. On her right were Yuing Wan, Han Shi, and the blind Yuan Mu. After the man entered the hall, he knelt on the ground and said, "Zhang Qing greets Princess Ling, stand up and speak." Ling Junyan waved her hand and asked, "Zhang Qing, why are you here?" "Princess, I'm here on the orders of my young emperor to report to you." Before Zhang Qing could finish, Ling Junyan interrupted him and said, "Is it about the Yuan Empire? Princess, you know about it?" Ling Junyan nodded and said softly, "Yes." Not long after Yi Hao left, he sent a message to Zhou Tong and the others, asking them to rush to the Yuan Empire. After we heard about the Yuan Empire from Zhou Tong, we immediately rushed out to discuss countermeasures. "I see." The stone in Zhang Qing's heart finally fell to the ground. Chapter 1531. Ever since Yi Hao left Zhang Qing in the Green Mountain Imperial City to wait for news, Zhang Qing would send people into the palace to gather information. He wanted to meet with Princess Ling as soon as possible. He was worried that Tianyuan Empire would not last for 13 days under Yuan Empire's attack. Fortunately, Princess Ling and the others returned a day after Yi Hao left. This made Zhang Qing feel a lot more at ease. If Green Mountain Empire really helped, Yuan Empire would have to retreat. Zhang Qing cupped his hands and retreated to the side. In this ancestral worship ceremony, Yuan clan has suffered the most losses. Therefore, Yuan Mu, you don't have to go. Yes. Yuan Mu nodded indifferently. Ling Junyun stared at Yuan Mu closely, trying to see something from his face. Unfortunately, she could not see anything. There was no joy from being in power, nor was there any sadness from the loss of Yuan clan. Ling Junyun shook her head and continued. Yi Sangao's real name is Yi Hao. He is not only the king of Tianyuan Empire, but also the prince consort of our Green Mountain Empire. Therefore, we have to participate in this battle and help Tianyuan defeat Yuan Empire. Qing Yunji and the others were slightly stunned. They did not know that Yi Hao was Yi Sangao, but it was not too late to know now. Qing Yunji bowed and said, Princess is right. Yi Hao is the prince consort of our Green Mountain Empire. Now that Yuan Empire is attacking Tianyuan Empire, they are provoking us. We have to participate in this battle. I second that. The other clan leaders bowed in unison. Suddenly, a discordant voice sounded in the palace. An unknown clan leader jumped out and pointed at Ling Junyun as he asked, Princess Ling, do you know that the Yuan Empire has always been on good terms with Green Mountain? Have you considered the consequences of offending the Yuan Empire for the sake of a mere fourth-class empire? Have you considered the consequences? Ling Junyun looked calm and did not speak. Yuing Wan roared, Fong clan leader, watch your attitude. Hee hee. Fong family head sneered and scolded. Yuing Wan, your Yu family has already declined. What qualifications do you have to point fingers at me? I really didn't expect that all of your great families would become servants under a woman's skirt. Truly lamentable, ah? Fong Sheng. Ling Junyun stood up from the main hall and said calmly, Do you know the national surname of the Green Mountain Empire? Of course I do. Since you know that the Qingshan Empire's surname is Ling, you have no right to order people around in this hall. Get out. Ling Junyun gently pushed, and all the spiritual energy in her body surged out. Fong Sheng flew out of the hall uncontrollably. As he fell, his eyes were filled with shock. Fourth Order Spirit Emperor Realm. How could this be? Previously, Princess Spirit was still in the Spirit Emperor Realm. How did she become a Fourth Order Spirit Monarch after a trip to the ancestral worship grounds? Does anyone have any objections? The hall was silent for 3 seconds before everyone said in unison, Your subjects have no objections. Then, tomorrow at noon, we will gather at the palace gate. Today, besides the Yuan family, anyone who does not show up will have their whole family killed. Yes, the majesty of an emperor filled the entire hall. Everyone trembled as they retreated. Only a white-robed figure remained standing in the hall. Yuan Mu, is there anything else? Yuan Mu smiled indifferently and asked, Your subject only wants to ask a question. May I ask where Yuan Shu is now? Ling Junyun said indifferently, Yuan Shu offending his superiors is a crime punishable by death. However, considering that the Yuan family has been cautious and conscientious for so many years, I have ordered people to lock him up in the dungeon until he dies of old age. I see. Yuan Mu cupped his hands and said, Then, your subject will take his leave. After the court assembly ended, Ling Junyun went to the Hall of Physical Cultivation. A middle-aged scholar was standing at the entrance. When the scholar saw Ling Junyun, he hurried forward and congratulated. Congratulations, princess! Ling Junyun said expressionlessly, What is there to congratulate? Congratulations, princess, for subduing the 6 great families. From now on, there will be no more internal strife in the Green Mountain Empire. Congratulations, princess, for breaking through to the spirit monarch realm, intimidating your subjects and restoring the royal family's glory. Ling Junyun was still expressionless as she asked, Uncle Yuqi, where's my father? Yuqi Wei's expression was somewhat sorrowful as he said, Princess, His Majesty is sleeping inside. Do you want to go in? Yes. Ling Junyun entered the hall while Yuqi Wei guarded the entrance. In the center of the hall was a crystal coffin. Ling Junyun opened the lid and looked at the old man sleeping peacefully. A faint smile appeared on her stiff face. Father, I did it. I can finally protect the royal family. You can sleep peacefully. This time, it's all thanks to Yi Hao. If it weren't for him, I'm afraid I would have no hope of becoming Spirit Emperor. Also, Yi Hao is in trouble. You said it before, a friend is in trouble. Moreover, I have an engagement with him. I will leave tomorrow. You have to take care of yourself. Ling Junyan rambled on for a long time. In the end, she lay on the coffin and burst into tears. In the depths of the dungeon of the Green Mountain Palace, there was a cell made of black iron. In the cell, there was a skinny old man. The old man looked at the small window where he could see light and was lost in thought. Not long ago, he was the powerful Yuan family head. Not long later, he became a lowly prisoner who was struggling at death's door. And the cause of all this was that unassuming young man from a small place whom he had always looked down upon. Thinking of this, the old man felt like a knife was being twisted in his heart. He was unwilling. He didn't understand why his plan had failed and why Yi Hao was so clear about the spirit array replacement. AI. The old man sighed deeply. What's wrong? You're discouraged? An unfamiliar voice suddenly sounded in the room. Then, a masked man in black appeared in front of the old man. Who are you? How'd you get in? The old man looked at him in fear. The masked man chuckled and mocked. How could a person without any spiritual power like you know how I came in? You. The old man was speechless. You and Shu, I'm not here to talk nonsense with you. I just want to ask you one question. Do you want revenge? You and Shu's eyes were crazy. He said hurriedly, Of course I want revenge. I can't forget the heart-wrenching pain when my spirit energy was taken away. I want to tear him to pieces. But Yuan Shu suddenly choked. But I can't do it. I don't even have spirit energy now. My lifespan is also reduced. I can't even get out of this cell. How can I take revenge? How can I take revenge? I can help you, the man in black said calmly. Chapter 1532. In a small village in the Tianyuan Empire, two surging spiritual energies collided in the village, accompanied by streaks of red sword light. Yi Hao was sent flying by Lin Sheng. He came to Yu Shaoqiu's side and looked at the back of his hand. He asked, Where did this guy come from? Why is his spiritual energy so powerful? I feel like my meridians are about to be frozen by him. Yu Shaoqiu had been watching the battle for a long time. Seeing that Lin Sheng, who was a third-level Spirit Emperor, was unable to defeat Yi Hao, who was a ninth-level Spirit Emperor, he couldn't help but admire Yi Hao. He told him everything he knew. Lin Sheng is the second most powerful person in the Yuan Lin family. His cultivation is second only to the head of the Lin family. It is said that he cultivates extremely cold spiritual energy. 9 out of 10 people who fight with him have their meridians frozen and then cruelly killed. Yi Hao shuddered. He put his left hand on the back of his right hand and murmured, So powerful. I underestimated him. Then I can borrow your spiritual energy to test my star body. Yi Hao held his sword with both hands and stabbed it into the ground. Then his body flashed with a silver light. Not long after, a silver-white spiritual energy appeared around Yi Hao and gradually covered his whole body. On the roof, the sky-devouring beast, who had been dozing off, suddenly woke up. Seeing the changes on Yi Hao's body, it couldn't help but be surprised. Oh, interesting. It seems that the first chapter of the star and moon transformation has been completely understood. Although this star body is much worse than Xing Yu's, it is enough in the ancient demon realm. At this moment, Yi Hao's body had indeed changed. His bronze skin gradually turned silver-white. Lin Sheng looked at the young man with silver-white skin and red eyes and sneered. Hey, pretending to be mysterious. You're just a 9th-level Spirit Emperor. What do you do to me? Is that so? Yi Hao smiled and moved slightly. In the next moment, he was behind Lin Sheng. Lin Sheng was shocked. Just as he turned around, a silver-white fist came at him. Bang! Lin Sheng's arm took a solid punch, and he retreated dozens of steps before stopping. He said doubtfully, That's impossible. Your body can't be so fast. Lin Sheng didn't understand what was going on, but Tunshin, who was on the roof, saw everything clearly. Yi Hao's movement technique just now wasn't an ordinary movement technique. If he wasn't wrong, it was the stellar transposition. My goodness, where did this kid get such a good item? Sky-devouring beast stared at Yi Hao with glowing eyes. Yi Hao waved his hand lightly and said indifferently, "Idiot, there are many things you don't understand. How can this be the only thing?" Lin Xing no longer hesitated as a cold smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. "So what if you're fast? I only need to slowly inject my extremely cold spiritual energy into your body and nibble away at your meridians. There will be a moment when you'll be at my mercy. I admit that as a 9th level spirit emperor, you are indeed different from others. You can actually fight so many of me. Cut the crap, take my fist." Yi Hao abandoned his sword and used his fists to rush towards Lin Sheng. It wasn't that Yi Hao couldn't use his sword, but if he wanted to test the power of a stellar body, his fists were the best weapon. Yi Hao's body was still very fast, but Lin Sheng was a 3rd level spirit emperor after all. His cultivation and vision were much higher than Yi Hao's, and he judged where Yi Hao would land in advance. Yi Hao attacked first, and the two fists collided. Yi Hao's body frantically retreated, while Lin Sheng stood in the same place with an indifferent expression. Yi Hao looked at the raging cold air on his fist and used his stellar force to nibble away at it. Not long after, the cold air disappeared. Yi Hao's brows relaxed. It seemed that the extremely cold spiritual energy had no effect on his stellar body. Then his whole body tensed up, and he rushed out again like an arrow leaving the bow. Lin Sheng stood in the same place, and no matter how Yi Hao attacked him from all directions, he didn't move. A silver-white figure flashed in the corner of his eyes, and Lin Sheng sneered. When a figure rushed towards him, he jumped lightly into the air and then stomped his feet down. Seeing that he was about to step on Yi Hao's chest, Yi Hao waved his arms and crossed them to block. Boom! A big pit was formed on the ground. After doing all this, Lin Sheng jumped to the ground very lightly. After a long time, the figure in the pit didn't get up and leave. Yu Xiaoqiu's eyes revealed a trace of worry, but more than that, there was hatred. He was worried about Yi Hao, and he was angry that He sent someone to follow him and wanted to kill him secretly. The sky-devouring beast, who was lying on the roof, yawned lazily, closed its eyes, and continued to sleep as if it wasn't worried about Yi Hao's safety. "Oof, I already told you, you can't beat me." Lin Sheng moved lightly and came to the side of the big pit. He looked at Yi Hao, who was lying motionless at the bottom of the big pit, and mocked, "I admire your courage, but it ends here." He jumped down and looked coldly at Yi Hao. I said, "Your meridians will be frozen by me sooner or later, and you will be at my mercy." Yi Hao, who was in the deep pit, was silent, but his eyes were filled with anger. Lin Sheng stretched out his claw and grabbed Yi Hao's forehead, covering his eyes, and sneered, "No, you shouldn't have such a look in your eyes. It should be despair. That is the look I want." Ha ha! A burst of wild laughter came from the bottom of the deep pit, but then a red light flashed, and the laughter came to an abrupt end. At the bottom of the big pit, Yi Hao, who was covered by Lin Sheng's claw, put two of his fingers together and gently touched Lin Sheng's chest. On Lin Sheng's back, there was a fiery red sword. How is this possible? Lin Sheng's voice was a little hoarse, but more of it was filled with shock. "Idiot!" Yi Hao shouted and pushed Lin Sheng's hand away. He threw a punch, and Lin Sheng flew into the air. Before he landed, a silver-white figure appeared in front of him. The figure put his fists together and punched heavily at Lin Sheng's chest. Bang! 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 Lin Sheng's figure retreated quickly, knocking down a few houses that were about to collapse before he stopped. The exhausted Yi Hao half-knelt on the ground. A silver-white light flashed, and Yi Hao's skin returned to normal. Yu Xiaoqiu, who was dumbfounded, hurried forward and helped Yi Hao up. He said in disbelief, "You actually sent Lin Sheng flying. That's too powerful." Cough, cough. Yi Hao coughed a few times, but he couldn't say anything. Just now, He took advantage of Lin Sheng's confidence in his cold energy and pretended that his meridians were frozen. He lied in the deep pit to lure Lin Sheng. When Lin Sheng let down his guard, he used the flying sword technique to pierce Lin Sheng's chest. Then he used both of his fists that were filled with the power of the stars to send Lin Sheng flying. This continuous attack had exhausted all of Yi Hao's spirit energy and strength, so he needed to rest quietly. It seems like I was right to find you. A 9th-level spirit emperor defeated a 3rd-level spirit monarch. Amazing, amazing. Yu Shaoqiu didn't praise people easily, maybe because of his personality, but at this moment, he really admired Yi Hao. Chapter 1533. Yi Hao took a few deep breaths, and his face was a little pale. What's wrong? Are you hurt? Yu Shaoqiu asked with concern. No, you said something wrong. Yi Hao sat cross-legged and said weakly, I only sent Lin Sheng flying, but I didn't defeat him. Bang! A fiery red sword flew past and stabbed into the ground not far behind Yi Hao. Yu Shaoqiu was stunned as he looked at Lin Sheng, who was getting closer and closer to them. Lin Sheng's wound was no longer bleeding. Although he looked a little battered, the majestic spiritual power made Yu Shaoqiu feel a trace of despair. Yes, that's the look in your eyes. Keep it up, and maybe I won't kill you. Lin Sheng looked at Yu Shaoqiu with burning eyes and nodded with satisfaction. Then he looked at Yi Hao and said fiercely, I didn't expect my spiritual power to be useless against you. Yi Hao, you're good. Yi Hao looked at Lin Sheng's wound and said indifferently, You must have used your extremely cold spiritual power to stop your wound temporarily. Where's your silver skin? Why don't you show it? Lin Sheng sneered. Even so, how long can you last? With your bronze skin, I'm afraid you can't beat me. A 3rd-order spirit emperor is indeed powerful. I'm not your opponent now. What other trump cards do you have? Hurry up and use them. The two of them talked back and forth, and neither of them had the intention to answer the other. Yi Hao looked up at the sky and stared at the blinding sunlight. He muttered, I give up. The spirit emperor is indeed the spirit emperor. I am no match for him. Just kill me. Yu Shaoqiu was at a loss. He had just thought of running away, but then he dismissed it. Run? Where could he run to? He asked Lin Sheng to follow him. It was obvious that he didn't want him to live. Lin Sheng walked closer slowly and sneered. A lowly person will always be a lowly person. Why do you have to struggle before you're willing to die? You've done so much, but in the end, isn't it useless? Seeing that you still have a trace of self-awareness, I'll leave you a whole corpse. 3 feet of ice rise. With Lin Sheng as the center, many icicles suddenly drilled out from the ground one after another. These icicles sparkled under the sunlight, revealing a trace of life-threatening coldness. Soon, Lin Sheng's body was covered with icicles. Those icicles also rushed in Yi Hao's direction. Just as the icicles were about to pierce through Yi Hao's body, he took out a fiery red bead and sneered. You want to kill me? Want to out. At the same time, Yi Hao raised his head and shouted, Devour the heavens. They're coming. On the roof, a small dog shook its body and finally jumped down. Then, a huge magical beast crashed to the ground. The moment it landed, 2 figures came to sit on top of its head. The demonic beast roared and soared into the air, flying away from this place. Just as the demonic beast flew away, the fiery red bead exploded around Lin Sheng. A blazing and huge amount of spiritual energy spread out. The whole village was annihilated in the void. When the spiritual energy fluctuation came, Yu Shaoqiu, who was standing on the forehead of the sky-devouring beast, faintly heard a scream. Ding dong! Congratulations to the host for killing a 3rd-order spirit monarch. The reward is a sunshot divine bow. Divine bow? Yi Hao thought for a moment. He could give it to Zhou Dong, so he put it away. Kid, I helped you with something. The heaven-devouring beast, who was flying through the air, suddenly spoke up. This time doesn't count. This time doesn't count. I was the one who killed them. You just took us away. This doesn't count. Yi Hao shook his head like a rattle drum, resolutely refusing to admit it. Yu Xiaoqiu sat silently and didn't interrupt. Why doesn't it count? I saved your life. If you did it from the beginning to the end, then it counts. The sky-devouring beast rolled its eyes and said slyly, How about this? Let me take a look at your cultivation method. Then we'll call it even. Yi Hao sneered in his heart. Well done, devouring heaven. So you were waiting for me here. Okay. Really? Yi Hao's a little excited. Of course it's true. Yi Hao smiled and said, Okay, put us down first. You can't expose yourself for the time being. We'll go on our own. Okay. Thus, the 2 humans and 1 beast stopped beside a stream. In the evening, in Full Moon Imperial City, the 2 men in black met in a tavern near the palace. One of the men in black with 2 swords asked the other man with a folding fan, How is it? Have you arranged everything? The man in black with the folding fan smiled and said, Don't worry. Everything is ready. When the time comes, we can take action. Okay. The 2 of them sat in the wine shop and pretended to continue drinking. They drank until the moon was high in the sky and the wine shop closed. The 2 drunk men helped each other to an alley. When they saw that there was no one around, they immediately sobered up and covered their faces. The 2 of them looked at each other and then separated. At this time, people were leaving the Full Moon Imperial Palace. The banquet was coming to an end and everyone was going back to sleep. When they walked out of the palace, some officials and nobles were whispering to each other. Hey, do you think Lin Xianghua is going to spend the night in the palace again? Isn't that normal? From what I know, Lin Xianghua has slept with all the beauties in the palace. He didn't even let go of some pretty maids. Oh my God, then the hat on His Majesty's head. This was the current situation in the Full Moon Empire. The emperor was weak and the officials were strong. Not long after those high-ranking officials and nobles left, 42 shadows sneaked into the palace. After they sneaked into the palace, they didn't rush to gather together. Instead, they followed the palace map and quietly came to a luxurious palace to lie in ambush. This palace was Hualu Palace, where concubine Hua lived. It was said that the Full Moon Emperor doted on concubine Hua very much. He would come to Hualu Palace every night and spend some time with her. There was a hidden corner near Hualu Palace. 2 people were squatting in the corner. They were the drunkards who pretended to be drunk in the wine shop. Brother Wu, the security of the palace is too lax. Wu Wenyong, who was holding a folding fan, said calmly, It's like this after the banquet. Don't worry. I'm worried that the Full Moon Emperor won't come. That would be bad. It's probably not time yet. Let's wait. Du Xing, who was holding 2 swords, stared at Hualu Palace. That you're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.